My voice mod on, by the way.
And welcome to
Yeah.
Anonymous Bites Back, episode 116. I do apologize for us not being here. Last week I was having some medical issues. Let me see what else. We have two guests in here today. We have a non-hive and uh, who's he? What was he go by?
Yo,
Was he go by?
owner.
Most call me owner, yeah, but your new owner.
Your new owner. I got you.
You're no,
Yeah. So
you're no Paul.
yeah. Sorry, this just kind of got thrown at me at the last minute. So as far as I know, you have a website, correct?
Yep, we actually just started, the unknown website, which is unknownonline.me. Basically, the idea of it stemmed from basically the original roots of, Anonymous, with Anonymous kind of, sort of like the group of people that, were activists together to fight a cause, for the betterment of the people, without, the ego behind it. Basically, in my point of view, and I know there's a few out there that agree with me, I feel that, like there's a lot of ego being put into this collective of people that's actually kind of killing the activism portion of it, because everybody's sort of wanting to one up each other, in a sense. And I guess our idea is to stem, I guess, sort of away from that and create our own little platform to, bring it back to what it used to be, when it was good. So there's a lot of infighting happening. The localization, everyone creating their own sects. You got, a bunch of issues that are basically hurting Anonymous as I know Anonymous anonymity, from, you know, uh, they think the group is built, because obviously at this point there's a lot of, out there who are just shows that aren't anonymous, you know what I mean? People know who they are. It's kind of, that's where the idea of it sort of came from.
And not to mention the distractions that can be caused by having a known profile.
Yeah, that's true.
You're right. I mean, and essentially, it's easy to have an ego when you have an identity. In a sense, like I guess the ego is a big problem in a lot of things that humans do, in my opinion. When it comes to certain things like this, in fact, thing that we do, a lot of us do, is activists. You're out there fighting something in some manner, in some way. Whether that be protesting or actually hacking or something, to that degree. I think personally, it's hard to have a collective group of people focused on the same thing with an ego overpowering all of them. When everyone's at that point just looking for gain, they're not looking for the better good of the people, whoever that may be, whatever the issue is that they're fighting at that time. People usually, maybe even they're trying to help somebody at first, and then it comes out to be, well, we could maybe make some money or become famous or something. And this is kind of, I see a lot of people now, and I don't want to name any names, but I've seen somebody in chat before talking about, I started anonymous. Like, okay, well, how did you start anonymous? I mean, it's an idea. It's not a physical thing. People don't understand. It's not a physical thing. It's an idea that people are, a part of to, you know, make things better at the time. Whether that be seeking truthful information, and or, et cetera, I guess. I mean, like the things that have been accomplished that we should go forward with, but we can't because under the circumstances, it's failing.
I mean, in certain aspects, what I think has ruined it. Ruined and some parts of Anon was, the incorporation of Facebook. When a lot of Anons jumped onto Facebook, it was uh, less anonymity and I don't know, more bullshit.
And everybody's paying too much attention to what somebody else is doing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because the ego, you know.
Same facts.
Excellent.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, everybody wants to take credit, you know, and instead of taking credit, why don't we just, you know, give credit to ourselves, not ourselves, but the collective group of people who are fighting the cause, you know, rather than egotistically bypassing all the work everyone else has done to say things like, we've started Anonymous, which is not even like a physical thing. I mean, to be anonymous is, I think, the name kind of sort of derives from we are unknown people. You know what I mean? And to be unknown, you know what I mean? You can't have an ego because there'd be no point. There's no way to take credit for something when you're not known. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, I keep on saying that, but I don't want to say that anymore. But I think there's people that, you know what I mean, do the opposite. They try to, I guess, utilize this thing, this platform, wherever we're at, as a function to not only make themselves feel good, but, you know, to maybe, you know, gain fame. And honestly, it's not something that's, I mean, that comes with a price, you know what I mean, that they probably don't understand at the time. But, like, you know, the site in itself is sort of a, you know, a way to get people back to what it used to be, you know, by being unknown and still having the will to want to do the same thing that has made good. You know what I mean? Because it's going backwards, you know, and I think with a new platform such as the one that, you know, we've created is a good way to bring people back to that, you know.
I think a lot of people will go, well, hey, why don't we just go back to 4chan? Well, that the one thing that got ruined with 4chan was the mods. They brought the mods in, the mods started censoring, and then that went downhill, and people left. So
Right.
this
And
is
that's
getting back to the old school, the way it was.
right.
So
We're
two
not
different
moderating
channels,
anything.
never in the same channel.
Right. See, I think a lot of that, you know, like, we're not going to moderate, you know, anything that's being posted unless there's something that's like super bad, you know. I do have the ability to delete stuff. I'm not, you know, actively doing that, but if, say, for example, because I am watching what's obviously going on there, but it like child porn is a big problem, you know. Obviously, I'm not gonna, you know,
Well,
stand back
yeah,
and
because legally, any site owner, you know, depending on what country you're hosting in, can go to prison for shit like that. You know.
In some
right,
countries,
yeah,
it's totally legal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
unfortunately, and you know, that's something that I've spent most of my time fighting. So, you know, obviously, if that's something somebody wants to bring to the site, so be it. You know, gonna warn everybody though that it's probably not a good idea, because obviously, you know, we have to fight spam in some manner. We're not actively tracking people, but that is definitely, you know what I mean. We have to do something about spam. We don't want people spamming everything. You know what I mean? So yeah, we have the ability, if we had to, figure out, you know what I mean? That's why I suggest if you do anything online, you know, you should definitely 100% use a VPN, definitely use Tor, and, you know, but despite that, I mean, I think this is a good platform to keep people together, you know, and keep the ego out of it, because there's no way to account for your own actions per se, and in a kudos fashion, when nobody knows who it is. You know, we're not like logging IDs or nothing, so there's no way to really associate anybody with anybody. So in a sense, I mean, I think it's a place to start over, you know, to keep us all centralized in one place, and we're not being heavily moderated by people who have maybe an ulterior motive. I mean, I think in a sense, some of the people are sort of a part of a controlled opposition. That is definitely an issue I played around with, you know, within, I guess, Anonymous. But people need to understand that Anonymous is the word just describing anonymity, and, you know, it's not a name, a group. not, like with unknown, it's where, I guess the slogan of it is no name comes no reputation, you know what I mean? And like it says on the site, we have no reputation to uphold and no name to drive to fame. There's no ego to clog the tunnel of our activism. It's not going to stop us from doing what we've always done and done best. And the ego is a force of division, 100%. It divides people. It doesn't bring people together.
Yeah, and as far as registration, you don't require. I looked at it briefly. You don't require any email to register on the site, right?
Not at all.
That's smart. That's smart. Yeah,
Just
log
log in
that's
like
got to
free
be
notes.
that's got to be the biggest security flaw that I've ever found on any site that wants to be secure is some identifiable information that you know what I mean. I mean, even logging in and creating a password, there's still something that can identify you. But you know what I mean? It's an added layer of protection. We're like, oh, I can affiliate this email with this person. You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure. However, yeah, and that's something that I actually kind of like. I was actually hesitant to kind of, because I made the site myself with, some of, I guess, the back end with some of the scripts that were out there, but I kind of moved things into a custom fashion because it was kind of outdated. But that was something that I certainly did. I was hesitant, because I was like, well, where do we, I guess, find a healthy medium, because I need to be able to fight spam. That's going to be a problem. I need the ability to keep the site secure, but the user's security is definitely the 100% forefront of the site. Like, how do we keep that a thing, And I found a way to make it happen, and I think it's going to work good. I mean, the only thing about it is, how do you delete a post if you don't have any login? You know what I mean? So for each post, you just establish a new password or any password for that post. You know what I mean? So then if in fact you wanted to go back and edit it or delete it or something like that, you could. And that's the only sort of authentication that the site is password post.
I have a question that I'm kind of curious of. What about the sick fucks, like the child porn? Is there a way to keep that off, or will
Well,
that be something that will be deleted?
well, that'll obviously get taken off immediately. I'm heavily involved in the site itself, and I want to give to the moderation panel. But definitely we have, stuff in place to combat that. Seems I might have lost my audio.
Oh no, I hear you.
No, we're here. What about you don't let people host cat punching events, do you?
1 second here, sorry.
I'm just wondering. I've seen people do it before. No purges of mains. I mean, no revenge porn against people. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we should bring the we should bring back the epilepsy memes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I had lost my audio there for a second, so I wasn't able to hear. But
no, same we should bring back the epilepsy memes.
There you go. Yeah.
Also, I see that I think you're hosting the site off-seas. Just an added benefit in case something you get a subpoena.
Okay.
It's
Get a subpoena.
whoa, somebody's.
That might not be enough. Sorry to say it. Well, I mean, I didn't even catch a question. My freaking headset switched on. Stupid Bluetooth.
Oh, I said it looks like you're doing a .me. I think that's in the Baltics, if I'm correct, right?
What's that?
It being hosted in the Baltics.
Right.
Yeah,
In the Baltic.
I think so.
Yes, .me. Kind of like you would see .de
No,
for
but this is
Germany.
the same country that fucking the Pirate Bay was being hosted at one
Yeah.
point. Okay, yeah, it is the Baltics. Okay.
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Oh no, I'm wrong. All right.
Well, it's just honestly.
It's all right.
Well, yeah. Yeah. 4chan, unfortunately, has been, it got the /B, got, now we have, what is it, Kekistanis and the QAnon that's going on, and everybody thinks that QAnon is anonymous, and I get hit up all the time, and to our listeners, I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but like QAnon, if you have Pound MAGA and QAnon on your fucking Twitter feed, like I'm not gonna follow you, you think,
Amen.
yeah,
Amen.
and for a reason, because half of my posts are just gonna report me down and take away my account. Like I'm not gonna fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, why even participate in something like that if you promote or support censorship? That I don't understand.
I don't understand how Pound MAGA and QAnon are in the same place. If you know anything about QAnon, it's a fucking government psyop, and if it's not, it's fairly well written, fictional. Oh, it's not fiction, but it's on the borderline.
Well, I mean,
Right.
for one, QAnon is like Trump's left hand, right hand, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But Anon don't
Right.
support politics. I mean, that's that. I mean, people don't understand that. Then,
Right. Q stands for the level of in Secret Service, right? That's kind of what I get from it. Am I right about that? Or
I have no idea. Like, just cult following, and
That could be COINTEL.
Alex Jones promotes it, and fucking like.
There's a clue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that
Could be Donald Trump.
I mean, if Big Shill, Alex Jones or Prison Planet, I mean, it's promoting, and for sure it's controlled. I mean, look at his ties to Time Warner, his ties to, all these people who support censorship. You know what I mean? It's like unbelievable. And people actually follow him, and try to claim that they're truthers or whatever. I mean, but how could you? I mean, if you really look at who makes it happen, you wouldn't even support it.
You gotta intake some of the bullshit. He did used to be a disinformational
Yo! Whoever's playing the music needs to turn it off right now. Yeah,
Holy
seriously.
shit! Is it live now?
It's too loud. Thank you.
We live now?
Yes.
Holy shit!
Sorry, I had to pull Skull Teacher mode right there.
Holy shit! We were live. I didn't even know it was live, man. Damn.
But as far as your site, the biggest.
Hey, what's up, DTE?
The biggest downfall I would say of most social media and posting sites has to be the report button.
Okay.
Well,
report button's terrible.
Okay. Consider that removed.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what I mean. What it tells me is that people's accounts get removed, and then you have people that hate another fucker, and they try to get a post removed by reporting it down. But then I don't support censorship, and then if it's bad, why should it be?
I see where you're going.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I mean, as long as it's not fucking like kiddie porn, then it's fair game,
Right. Like, I think a part of the plan with the report button was you know, you can hit it, but whoever said that, I mean, don't be a pussy in the text that, you know, sort of is supposed to be hidden. You know, I don't want to, like, I guess, if it looks bad and people don't want to use it because there's a report button, I agree in a sense with the censorship aspect of it. But more or less, it's a joke. I mean, we're not trying to censor anybody. You know, it's totally free speech on there. I mean, it's got to be, because we wouldn't be able to do anything under the circumstances. You know, like on Twitter, you know, you got all them people who kind of focus on getting each other or somebody suspended, or, you know, like,
Lloyd Black Hat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and why would you want to suspend somebody's account that's doing things, you know, that are doing good for people, like maybe children or, you know, something like that? Like, it's always seems to be the bad guy hitting the good guy in a sense, you know, like. That's why I like those sort of platforms, and I agree with your statement. You know, with the report button, you're always going to have problems. You know, someone's always
Some
going
of
to
those
try to
memes
be.
are pretty funny.
Yeah. I didn't make them. Where's the lead at? I seen him come in, then he left. There he is.
Yeah.
I don't. Let me see.
Mention his name and he shows up, right? Magically.
He's muted.
Wow.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The whole crew showed up.
The whole
Delete.
crew is here.
Oh, there's not even.
Damn
He
it.
dropped out again.
He keeps popping in and out, dude. What's up with that, man? Hey, what's up, homie? Glad to see you again. What's up, owner?
But you know what?
The whole crew. What's up,
Delete,
Pod?
use-
How's everything going?
Delete. Use a different browser, man. We went over this last
There's a
time.
mute button.
No, bro. I like the. I had to use a different browser. I had to agree with them, dude. Anyway, what's going on? How's it going, everybody? What's up, Hot? You know what I mean?
What's going on?
It's going pretty well. You know, but you know, as far as that, a lot of the social media campaigns, you know, that were sponsored on Facebook, you know, were always subject to being deleted by, you know, Facebook admins. You know, if you have, you know, a site like unknown.me, you know, where there's no real mods or anything like that. You know, it's free game. You know.
Right. Right. I mean, and honestly, to be quite honest, the only one is me. You know what I mean? I'm not censoring anybody. That's not my part. I'm just there personally to make sure that nothing like child porn happens. You know, because that's a big problem, I feel. And, you know, it's a concern of mine. And I certainly can't sit back and allow that to ever happen. But, you know, on the other foot, I mean, I guess when it's all said and done, you can post whatever you want, you know, and nobody, I mean, not to say nobody will troll you or whatever, however that goes down, but, you know, we're just trying to get it back to the original idea. You know, the original idea is that we're unknown, but we're still doing what we have to under the force of unknown, you know, or being autonomous figures who are doing, you know, something. I just want it to become something that people see as the original idea unfolding the way it should be. And I think I think we've all stemmed away from that in some sense, driven by the ego, you know, and that's, I believe, is a big problem.
Whoa, that was a lot, bro. Thanks, Oni. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the big problem of social media, right? I mean, yeah, and especially like sites like Facebook force you to like use your own identities or like separate identities with ID cards and everything. So and that isn't really possible there, but it is possible on your news site. And but you do have like some illegal keywords. Some keywords are forbidden. So I explain a bit about that then.
Oh yeah,
Well, see-
Myanmar is banned, I think, from
Something
Facebook.
helpful.
Yeah.
By the way,
actually,
I posted a list of keywords that the DHS uses on Twitter today. Everybody might want to go look at them. It's a big one.
Actually, we have word filtering on there, and actually, what I've been doing is taking all the shills' names and putting them in there, so that when people type them and talk about them, it actually changes their name to something stupid. You know, and honestly, we could probably, I can utilize that in a sense to, you know, I guess combat some of the stuff we don't want on there, but I don't want a lot of that censorship taking place. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to wake up one morning and look at the site and see someone doing something that's just unforsaken. I mean, honestly, I can't, you know, being a pedal hunter myself, I can't, you know, exactly fathom what it would be like to see that on my own site, my own platform that I put so much time into creating, when I myself do a lot to combat that issue in a sense, you know. It's just, that's the only thing that worries me.
Yeah, you know what I can do?
You know-
You know, somebody who hates you could turn into like a reverse honeypot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely don't want it to turn into a red room site.
Yeah.
Or do we? No.
It's mainly,
Only for pedos. Only for pedos.
We just want to turn them into their ISPs.
oh shit. I mean, fuck that. No. Right?
Gain their nodes and send them to their ISP. They're done. Let their ISP turn them into the police.
Right. I mean, this child porn, man, that's a big problem. I mean, the whole pedophilia thing. I mean, that's, you know, a big problem. You know, and honestly,
I don't really think VPNs are really strong enough for most websites myself,
no,
because anybody can gather your data.
With some script magic, bro, you can get through VPNs, bro.
Yeah, a semicolon at
Right.
the end of the address bar, and for your address, you know, that would bust you right on in. Maybe with a 3 at the end or something.
You know, and then you got leakage on some VPNs, and you know, and other ones. You know, even Tor, you can even find an IP, but it's not as obvious.
Right. I mean, and I'm familiar with, you know, I guess before they're taking, you know, the leap of faith, I'm not asking anybody to without obviously knowing what they're doing first. You know, and I like to think I know. I've been doing lots of things, I guess, technologically, for a very long time. But I mean, I guess no matter what, I'm not asking people, you know, to go there without trying to protect or obfuscate their, you know, stuff. I'm asking people to do the opposite, no matter where they're going on the internet. Period. You got to have some sort of level of protection, and, you know, it's important regardless of where you go.
Yeah, well, if you're talking about VPNs, it also depends on like what node are you connecting to, because you know in some countries there's like forced decryption, and these are legal companies, so they have to like abide to like laws in the countries they're hosting. So some country has like America has like some Patriot Act, and it forces you to decrypt stuff or anti-terrorism stuff, and then you're only creating a new entry point using a VPN, and it's your provider knowing what you're doing, and it's the VPN provider knowing what you're doing. I got two.
Yeah, that's essentially what ruined LavaBit is, because it was the same issue.
Yeah, you're creating just
a
new point of contact. You have like a second entry point for the government if they want something from you. So.
Yeah, he literally got subpoenaed by the FBI because Snowden was using his service.
Yeah, that's when Rule 41 comes into play.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's stuff can be seized.
The VPN provider that I've mainly used doesn't even, according to what they say, they don't even log anything. You know, accept cash as a form of payment. You know,
Many VPNs don't log. That's what they claim, at least. But yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and I believe I read a story where they actually got subpoenaed before, and they weren't able to supply any evidence because they didn't have any. You know, and that's a big deal to me in a sense, I guess. You got to be able to know your company. You know you got to have the knowledge before you go and you start.
Hey, but even without logs, there is some way to like identify who was it and stuff. Like they can still see who was connected to it at a certain time, and then they make the pool a lot smaller with that. But
Or it could be
Yeah,
logged in a
for your
cache or
FTP.
somewhere. Yeah.
FTP is always the hard way to get it. File transfer protocol. I mean, it's like a screenshot.
yeah, well, let's say like you're like doing like an attack on a website or something, and it happens at like 3 o'clock, and they can see who at 3 o'clock is connected to their VPN service. Like the VPN provider itself can actually see the IP or location you're using to connect to them. So it reduces it from like a few billion internet users to a few hundred or a few thousand connected at that time. So yeah, if there is some more forensic research done by like specialists, they can still figure out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. You know, I'm well aware of that. That's why personally I wouldn't advise anybody to hack from home at all. I mean, definitely look into getting, you know, yourself a server in Russia or a few of them and do some tunneling and maybe think about some technology that's available to, you know, I guess I don't want to give anybody any advice to go out and do anything illegal. I mean, that's not what I'm here for, but I mean, definitely if you're gone, you protect yourself.
Yeah,
know,
it's
you
all
don't want
strictly informational and educational.
Right. I mean, but if anybody's going to do anything on the internet, I definitely would recommend, obviously, you're going to want to protect yourself because, you know, I mean, everyone in a sense is being watched, monitored, you know, that goes along with the whole, you know, censoring what everybody sees or, you know, I know that in some places you can't go certain places, I guess, you know, for whatever reasons. And, you know, it's a bad thing, the internet, in a sense, I guess. It makes everybody vulnerable, you know, and how do you do with that is the important part.
Yeah, speaking of which, I believe that Congress was trying to, I was going to mention this on the show, Congress is trying to revive Title II. Title II on the internet, they're just calling it something different. They're calling it the 21st Century Internet Act. It's something that's going to be popping up.
It's like corrupt the wish. They're going to give you what you want, but you lose a finger every time.
No. Essentially, what they will be doing is that ISPs can't block, throttle, paid prioritization, and all of this jurisdictional stuff will be cleared up. But we'll see. You know, Congress does a lot of shit, and they never throw down. You know.
Right.
Still waiting on that law, Berlin.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how many of you guys here in the U.S. have already been forced to get your badge and star?
I was told when I remember when I told you that the DMV told me I didn't have anything on my registration. They told me they was going to take my car away or some shit, or my registration. So I went back to the DMV and I showed them my ID, and they told me that if I don't have an ID by 2020, that I won't be allowed back into the United States if I leave, or I won't be able to fly in a plane. And I was like, well, what the fuck is this shit? Like, you're just putting a star on here, and I gotta pay you $30 to come just to fly on an airplane? This is fucking ridiculous.
Well,
They're claiming this.
How in the hell do I feel so ignorant to that right now? I mean, I've heard a little bit about it, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I feel kind of sheeple right at this moment when we're talking about this. Another thing that, I mean, the elite is definitely intact with, combatant people like us who get together and plan to expose them for what they are, and any way they can imprison us, they definitely, certainly been successful, more so successful than I think, us have. I mean, it's crazy, they put a star on your ID just so you could fly in a fucking plane.
Yep, that's basically what they want. And instead, it has to be federally fucking compliant. And I'm like, is this like related to the Project 2020, which was sponsored by the Rothschilds, where everybody had to be ID'd on some
ID 2020.
Yeah, it had to be ID'd to some level.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to look at it too. They already have your face. You have a Facebook, they have your face. So this already tells you they already have you in the system.
Right, and I'm sure they have, artificial intelligence set up, via whatever camera infrastructure they have in the world to basically do facial recognition as you're doing things like walking to your local supermarkets or gas stations or whatever it may be, and tracking everybody's movement. I mean, and honestly, they really don't even need that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you and us, we all probably carry the cell phone, and the cell phone's enough to screw everybody or implicate anybody's security in some nature, in terms of that. I mean, we always look at it, and we look at it, we got a camera, it's like, I cover all my cameras, like, I mean, I'm not.
I carry a rotary phone with me, so they can't track me.
Yeah, one of them ones where you gotta spin the thing and then ask the operator to dial it for you.
Yeah, it's really heavy, so.
People probably look at you weird too.
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm like,
And-
how they pushed the paperless thing.
And they're doing biometric data stuff now too, right? They're
Right.
Yeah.
Some countries, yeah.
Everyone's doing this.
they're getting these patents into biometric data, so soon like your Facebook account will be like combined with like the high quality video cameras on the streets. And
I bet they already do it in Walmart.
yeah. You get like targeted advertisements when you like walk like past a bus stop. The advertisement will change according to your likes, and
This is heavy where
Yeah.
you're at, isn't it, John?
it's at some places already, but there are new privacy laws, so they will restrict it, but that's only temporary, I think. So we'll find ways to get into that.
Yeah. I mean, and I've actually experienced something similar to it, where like you got a cell phone around, or somebody does, and someone talking about something, whatever that may be, and the next thing you know, someone picks up their phone and an ad pops up for that sort of exact thing. I mean, it's
Yeah,
scary.
I've been experiencing, that for like, especially with social media. Facebook's got to be the worst, and same thing with the Google search engine that are incorporated in some phones, especially specifically Android phones. That, as far as Facebook, you'll see cross-site, you'll see cross-platform, or you'll see like if you do a search on Google or whatever search you're doing on your web browser on a mobile device, you will see those ad suggestions not only in the videos that you're watching, but in the sponsored ads. Like the Facebook application reaches way further into the device than you think that it is.
Right. I would agree. That's why I don't have one. That's why I won't use one. Period. End of story. Won't touch it. Not a 10-foot pole. Because the more we do, the more we give them the right, which they, in fact, never had that right. And it only proves that they're not treating us like humans. Livestock, quite frankly, with the food and, issues with GMOs and stuff like that, it's proof that, there's a globalist agenda in some sense that is definitely passing down these things and these things that you know, the countries are doing to, you know, kill people, attack people, so that they could in turn kill people. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, basically, in terms of that. I mean,
My God, there's a lot of chatter in the back.
Well, I hope, but
The lead has some
Everything just
issues
slows
with getting his microphone to work, so
No,
he'll get it fixed.
nobody on this show would have a mic issue, would they?
I can't. Yeah, here's a virtual mic. Hold on. Let me send the software package. Hold on. I just like.
We need care
Yo.
packages of microphones as always since day one. Thank you.
The
in case you
finally a
you're up.
wild. Well, want to be back.
You know,
You should almost have a wait.
If you need to catch my drift.
you know, speaking of conspiracy and global things, like I have to call bullshit on this one. Apparently, there's an op going out against 5G, and like I hate to say this, guys, but I guess they're saying that it's like a form of mind control, and this shit's gonna fuck with your fucking thoughts and shit and thinking. Like, this is some retard science going on here. Like, you guys heard about this?
No,
Yeah, a
it's,
little bit.
Yeah.
it's real stuff. I mean, it's even been going on since 3G, really, because in World War II, check it out, they used to use bombs underwater. If you bring them up, the Wi-Fi inside the bomb itself would kill everybody. That's why they put these things underwater, so
Well,
it wouldn't kill nobody
well,
overland.
Me being, having a background in radio and radio transmission, especially with data packets. The band that they're using is spotted all the way there. The IEEE was allowing them to test on 60 kilohertz, 28 kilohertz, all the way down to 600 megahertz. And if you know anything about data and data transmissions, the higher the band you're going to, you're going to get better data packets, but you're going to get problems with interference. Like if the higher you go, sometimes you get problems with like the new 60 gigahertz routers that you're using. You won't even pass through paper. And humans have been exposed to radio waves since the dawn of time. Whether it be interstellar radio all the way up to natural bound low band kilohertz. Even the Earth transmits its own radio waves. So I'm like, when I always people getting freaked out about microwave band transmissions and saying that it's gonna fuck you up. I mean, like when you listen into like a scanner and you hear that fuzz on the microwave band, you're hearing background radiation from the Big Bang. It's there. It's always been there. And we've been exposed to it since the beginning of humankind.
What's that? Red gamma or green gamma?
No, it's microwave. It's background interstellar radiation from the creation of the universe.
I got you, but don't you feel funny when you don't have your phone in your pocket and your legs vibrating anyway?
Yeah, right.
Or you put your phone upside of your head, it feels like everything shifts to the other side to get away from the phone.
Hey, Tyler, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You said you've done communications, and I had someone contact me. I had someone contact me, and they're talking about trying to set up a secure wireless public net over HF. There will be FDM and TDM.
HF, high frequency, like 800 megahertz?
They said it will be FDM and TDM. Upper and lower side bands will allow us to act as an emergency backbone internet in the event of WCS. It went over my head, so I was.
That's a little bit outside of my.
What was that? Ham radio.
That's what I said, but I mean,
if I know what kind of band range they're using and what kind of like encryption and decryption they're using, like I can tell them, or what kind of protocols they're using. Like those are I'm not familiar with some of what you said. said.
He's talking about multiplexing over multiple frequencies,
I gotcha. Okay.
like a fog.
Yeah, they kind of use that with the police. The
Frequency.
police started using that. They called trunk scanning. Yeah, but they're broadcasting on like 2 different frequencies at the same time.
And one sort of is a backup, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of health implications in wireless.
Yes,
Anything.
yes, and no. I mean, like when you start getting into like high exposure to multiple bands, and you're right up to the source. Yes, I mean, yes, there can be hallucinations. Yes, but like, I mean, it's been well documented. With the guys that go up and repair the cell phone towers. Because they're so close to the frame of where the broadcast is being that they've actually got burned. Of course, but if you're so far away from it, so many feet, like it's actually safe.
And some people actually pay good money for hallucinations. So
Because I know, well, I know that because there's a regulatory commission, that basically regulates the amount of power that like your Wi-Fi card or something could, transmit or receive, whatever. Because of so-called health implications.
Or how many watts you can start using? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right, exactly. I guess it's 5G something that is an issue in terms of that. I mean,
you're breaking up, man. You're breaking up.
Question, right? I mean,
You're breaking up.
Oh shit.
Yeah, steady up.
you said we're breaking up.
Yeah,
You're breaking up.
Yeah, but there's
No, we're breaking up. No.
Yeah,
Nobody loves you anymore.
But if you're using like 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, you can actually increase your range by just switching the type of antenna. If you use the 80 decibel diagonal ones, the ones that are shaped like a diagonal, and you have 2 of them that are right next to each other, you can actually increase your range like blocks by like a city block or some shit.
Nice. That's something that definitely should get on. I mean, I'm always trying to own more WPS and more access points. I mean, that's a joke.
Yeah, well, about the health implications of 3G and 4G and 5G and Wi-Fi. There are still debates about that in some countries. I mean, in New Zealand and Switzerland, they're a lot stricter than in here or in the US with like the maximum exposure rates. So yeah, there's some research that suggests that it's not always very good for your health. But yeah, like our government states it's like perfectly fine. So.
Right. Yeah, if government says it's perfectly fine, then you might. If government says shit is perfectly fine, you really, really, really got to be extremely questioning of it.
Well, I mean, for me, honestly, like when radio waves start to develop, properties of light, the further you go up in the spectrum, right? So we got your microwave band, right. You start dealing with heat. When you start getting to the upper bands, like that's when you start getting into some danger zones where you start dealing with real radiation, But we're not. But transmitting any sort of data at those bands is like fucking ridiculous. You might get high data rates, but you're gonna have all these fucking other problems with being interfered by like a bug or some shit. And not only dealing with that, you start having other properties of light which are harmful to the human body. So it's almost unfeasible. But like my general sense is that I think it's pretty safe, but like people freaking out over 5G, they're practically using the same bandwidths that we're using right now, except for the 28 gigahertz range.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of different.
Yeah, well, at some point there is actually like it's not like very easy to explain it, but it's like there is like an electricity in your surroundings, right? There is like an electricity level in the air and there's a certain level per square feet, for example, and these levels that they go up, and there are some limits on that.
Some people may be believing they're conjuring demons going high.
Oh, and the old shortwaves.
Hey, you
I
never
mean,
know.
I've been using Wi-Fi for a while, and I'm all right.
Yeah.
Your chairs aren't stacking yourselves in the kitchen, are they?
Wi-Fi, man. Wi-Fi's for the real niggas.
Waifu.
Wi-Fi, my nigga.
Well, I mean, there's been micro companies, experimenting with 5G for, a while, and I think the practical application that they were trying to use it for was trying to I think I could be wrong. They were trying to use it to try and get internet wirelessly to rural areas, but I could be wrong.
You mean like country neighborhoods,
I think so.
trailer parks?
What are they using now? Like satellite, just like the old satellite internet.
If you're in the rural area, that might be your only option. Yeah, there's always a data lag when you're using satellite, though. I think doesn't it like max out at like 100 megabit or some shit like that if it can even get that fast.
I don't know, man.
It says Wi-Fi was in 1971. Aloha Net connected the Hawaiian Islands with UHF wireless packet network.
Oh, was that with DARPA and shit?
NCR. I'm looking at Wikipedia, so who could tell?
Yeah, because the Defense Aerospace and Research Research Project Administration basically invented wireless packets.
So the NCR Corporation with AT&T
Bell Labs,
Corporation.
yeah, AT&T Bell Labs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's when everybody's phone number was 018.
No, bro, that was still when they were using the mainframe computers. They're using X terminals. Okay, I think I lost everybody.
Yeah, you probably lost me because I was too busy looking at pics. Rappers that inspire me.
That's when they had the Fortran computers, right? What was that? Who are they?
It says the Australian radio astronomer Dr. John O'Sullivan developed a key patent used in Wi-Fi as a byproduct of Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization. A failed experiment to detect exploding mini black holes the size of atomic particle.
So they were splitting atoms with it, right?
That's some crazy shit. Did you?
It says for a method later used in Wi-Fi to unsmear the signal.
Straight out of CERN, Switzerland.
They stabilize nuclear.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
feel free to post me this stuff on the new site. No.
Where'd DTE go?
It seems it's not working for him or something.
He's
Yeah,
having
and
some connection problems.
yeah.
Damn it.
That typically happens when you're in a third world country.
What, America?
Hey man, third
Yeah,
world
right.
country.
Oh, America is a third world country. Trust me. We only have the look of a first world country. The first world country thing is a facade. We are a third world country, motherfuckers. We're fucked. We're fucked. There is no hope for us. Very little hope for us, if any. We're
Well, I
screwed.
mean,
We're set up for this.
I mean, our society thinks they help elect a thing like a president, or a person or whatever.
Oh, electing the same oppressor.
That the electoral college elects the president. I mean, what's the point of voting then? You know what I mean? And people
And sorry about that.
up and don't pay attention because they're heads down all day, and that's failure enough. You know, if we all just practice looking up and actually seeing what's around us rather than, you know, I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff to, you know, obfuscate our ability to be able to communicate properly, you know, through these, you know, emoticons, stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the problem per se. I'm just saying, you know, like they have ways that they're making people more docile, and I think people are partaking more in it than they are, you know, acknowledging that, you know, like I don't even think this is so much as watch TV because the mind control is there, you know, 100%. If we allow it, you know, then we're just basically taking it and, you know, and we're doomed to ourselves then. I mean, they aren't the problem at that point. We are, you know, if we don't take the time to acknowledge it and fight it, you know, then what are we doing? We're the problem.
Actually, we've always been the problem. They just benefit off of it.
Exactly.
The Illuminati may benefit from all our woes and shit, but who are actually the cause of it? We are. They're not merely the problem, they're just the beneficiaries.
Right.
They just bank off of it. That's all they do.
They just fund it.
They bank off it, they fund it, they worship it. All they doing is worshiping Satan and killing babies. Are we doing anything to stop it? Yeah, man, no one told you to play in the fucking Ouija board. No one told you to sign that goddamn contract. They control us? Yeah, but then you don't gotta accept them, motherfucker.
Well,
Is there a government? Yeah, but you don't have to keep it there.
You know, that was actually one of my you know, my topics, you know, for a side topic for the show was the decline of, you know, the declining or the fall of the American empire, you know, which I've talked about kind of extensively. There's a guy who wrote a book. It was called The Rise and Fall of Empires, you know, a survival guide, you know, and you know, once you see what you're seeing in America is, you know, kind of it's more than just a societal issue or who's controlling what. It's more of a the cycle of power that happens to any big nation state, and you know, America is in its decline, and they just happen to put in, you know, whoever the powers that be had put in an idiot, you know, in the Oval Office, and you know, at a perfect time, you know, when shit's just going down and waiting for the next thing to come, you know.
Yeah, if they put in the satanic Hillary Clinton, it would have been it. Everyone would have revolted. Everyone would have lost faith. The only reason why they put Donald Trump in is because they wanted to restore faith in the facade. That's all that is.
Yeah, but the people that follow fucking politicians they're just like another kind of, like, you know what I mean, like I don't know if you've seen any Pound MAGA people, but like honestly, it's just like
there's a swarm of them.
It's kind of like I don't know, like I always think that their intelligence is a little lower, you know.
No, their intelligence is down the drain. Their intelligence is zero. It's zero. They have no intelligence. Neither do the Democrats. Anyone who votes for the state or supports this state whatsoever, any state, any government, no one, none.
I support potatoes.
Support the what?
Oh, shit.
Support the what?
Potatoes. You're choosing your own slave master, right? That's what he means, I think.
Yeah, you're choosing your enslaver. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all enslavers, my nigga. All governments suck. Yes, Russia and Syria included.
Well, I mean, power is not a good thing for humans to really even dabble in. I mean, when we dabble into things like power, we're more likely to do things bad with it. I mean, I don't know what you guys believe, but I definitely have, you know, done my studying in the Bible, and you know, and it talks about, you know, the power, you know, and the ego is definitely a big thing that I keep talking about. I keep bringing it up because the ego is definitely power driven, You know, if we all want power. If we all got power, then we could do what? We could control people. We could
Power
have
is
whatever.
within us. Why don't we see? Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Very sorry about that. Man. Keep going.
No, I'm just saying, you know, and the power portion of what, you know, and we all do it without even really knowing we do it. You know, it's a part of, I guess, our human nature. But I guess the more so we acknowledge the fact that more people do bad with power than they do good, you know, by human nature, then maybe we could actually maybe form, you know, something that doesn't need power, you know, or a government or something to that effect, you know. Like, I don't personally support any government, you know. I can't, because I know what it is. What it is just power over the people, you know, power over the people. I mean, why do we need power over the people? I don't understand.
Why I'm an anarchist, bro?
So that we could all feel safe. So we could all feel
So-
safe from all the things we create to make us scared to give up our rights to do things like carry guns or to protect ourselves from the tyranny that they actually place upon us. I mean, that they do things against us.
Ooh, even better, owner, to protect us from terrorists.
Ourselves.
I know what I think. If you believe in if anyone says, "Oh, we need to be safe," oh, safety is an illusion. Security is an illusion. It's fake. It's not real. None of it is real.
You know, you've reached a real Gestapo when they start declining. They start defining domestic terrorists. You know, then your own
Oh, yeah.
people. Then your own people. Yeah, are the problem. You know.
Yeah.
Right. That's another thing.
Yeah, that's sorry about that.
Go ahead.
You know, safety is bullshit. It's an illusion. You can't find if you're in the physical realm. You are in a 3D physical realm right here. There is no safety here. None. You will not find safety in the physical realm. None. So might as well just if danger is always going to be here. Might as well embrace it. You know what I mean? I'd rather, if I have to pick between freedom and safety, I choose freedom. I would rather buck up and face the music like a man.
Exactly.
Time comes,
I mean,
I would rather just buck up and face up to these actions like a man would. Hey.
I mean, that's how they get. That's how they get power. You know, that's how they utilize their power. You know, and enforce their power is through the fear. You know, and Alex Jones, he's a great contributor to the fear aspect of their control. You know, if he could just get everybody scared as a motherfucker, then everybody might want to confide in their government to protect him. You know, when we can't do things like provide ourselves food or something like that. I know in America, we usually, most people, I think, go to their government to ask for help. You know, and when they do that, I guess, in a sense, they're giving up their rights in some form or fashion. It comes with the price, you know, and true freedom, in my opinion, doesn't involve government in any fashion, you know, because there's no freedom with a government, because there's always going to be, you know, those things that oppress the people, that make the people not free anymore. And,
it's gonna be like, no freedom, no room to grow, no room to grow as a person. But they give you little free extra trinkets.
Well, you know,
Right.
you know, America might describe itself as a first world nation, but we have third world problems. You know, every other semi-functioning government in the world, well, a lot of them, you know, that are more poverty-stricken than us, have free healthcare, free education. We don't have.
Do you think that more third world problems?
Everyone has a job.
Yeah.
Coming here. I mean, where do the numbers really come from anyway? You know, what are we looking at to really drive the number? I mean, because when and it's great you say that, because, you know, they're free. They got free healthcare. They got, you know, stuff that actually benefits them, you know, but at a certain price. You know, I think people are scared to take what they think is comfortability out of their life to free. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, most likely. And by the way, free, that also comes with a price. They get to face upfront ass whoopings from the government. Upfront bombings. The tyranny over there is upfront. Oh, third world country having worse than us. You should be lucky. No, we're not lucky at all. We're not blessed
hey,
at all. We're
don't
cursed.
forget
We're just as
don't
cursed
forget
as they
to
are.
donate. Don't forget to donate to their cause as well. You know?
Yeah, pay your
Yeah,
taxes is donating to the cause.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. They don't need our tax money. They want us to go over there and help these people. We don't need to give them any more of our tax money. The tax money isn't going to the people. The charity money isn't going to the people. It's going to
Actually,
the
it
fucking
doesn't.
Illuminati
Yeah,
niggas
no, the tax
and their puppets. That's all it's going to.
the money that you go to the IRS goes back to pay on the debt that they already incorporated onto back to the Federal Reserve. It actually goes nowhere back to the debt collectors.
Exactly. Well, see, and that's the big deal is the Federal Reserve Bank is as federal as Federal Express.
Yep.
There's no ownership of the Federal Reserve Bank from the government. The government doesn't have any hand in what they do. You know, I mean, they can make some sort of regulation that is, a facade to their control over it. But, I mean, in all reality, it's a fractional reserve monetary system. That means anybody who is rich has more debt. Bottom line, to have more money means more money owed to someone somewhere for something. And to put that money into a bank only increases their reserves for money creation. Because if we understand how money is created in the United States, I mean, we're all slaves to the debt that, the government's to pay with interest. But if I take, and the interest portion is what boggles my mind, because I'm surprised more people aren't like, burn this shit. This shit's worthless. Because they create, say they only created, say, $100, and gave it to the government and said, here's $100, pay back, say, just for easy numbers' sake, 10% interest. But they only created $100. So how in the world are you supposed to come up with the other residual interest?
Yeah,
that's why there's like an endless growth needed to actually repay the debt.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that a bank can loan out 10 times it has than it actually has. And if all the loans and all the debts were ever called in, there'd be more debt than there was actual physical money.
A lot more.
And that's what happened in the first stock market crash. That's exactly what happened. People lost faith in their lender, and they went back to the bank and they said, "Give me my money." They didn't have all the money, and look at what happened. I mean, it failed. In American history, we've seen it firsthand, but nobody ever really acknowledges it anymore.
Hamilton. I think it was not Hamilton. It was Jefferson that told the central banks to go away. Was one of them, and then they came back.
Wasn't it Thomas? It wasn't Thomas Jefferson, was it? No, I think you might be right.
Just one more point. This place was set up.
Right.
Period.
I mean, America wasn't.
Well, this new Federal Reserve System was created after this big crash in 1907, and this J.P. Morgan guy collected these bankers to run this new Federal Reserve. I think it's owned by like 12 big banks or something, and 6 out of those are outside of the U.S.
Those were the prototypes, bro.
They're in control of the U.S. monetary system, and they're outside of the U.S. like 6 huge banks, and
yeah. I mean, that tells the tale. That in itself is the proof, and I'm glad you said that because people need to wake the fuck up. I mean, we all look at our phone. I mean, everyone
wants to quit their job to wake up, man.
If every one person in the United States stopped paying taxes and stopped supporting the system would in fact fail, or it'd have to, or at least their facade would come to light. If everybody stopped voting, stop voting for a president, right? Not only way, but the system would show itself because people think that they elect a president. They're wrong. They're dead wrong. Because the Electoral College elects a president. They just have it set up so that people feel a certain type of way about it being when, in fact, they don't. You know, when they're voting, and I mean, who's there to collect all the count all the votes anyway? I mean, like, come on. If you didn't make it, you're supposed to trust it. We're just supposed to put the stamp of approval on it. So we don't all exactly know how and what they're doing. You know, I mean,
that's one of the things I've been saying about, this whole last election. I mean, everything about it was a show. And if people look, they can see, I mean, you got Trump. Half the people didn't like him, the other half did. And then what they did is they started this whole MAGA, whatever the fuck it is, and they got the people that would normally, be against the government, whatever, they got them on their side. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just one big show. That's all it was. I mean, they know that.
Uh-oh.
Something was going on. But he's right, actually. These politicians know exactly how the media works, and they know that the media plays into your basic emotions. So they use fear, and like Owner also said, they use fear.
Yep. And having a girlfriend who's trying to go do it all. Hey, honey, honey, you gotta understand. This system is evil, and Trump is working for the Illuminati, and the girlfriend is like, no, you don't understand. He is for us.
Well, he put a lot of Goldman Sachs, partners on his cabinet,
Yeah.
All of them are almost Ashkenazi Zionists.
If you're talking about that Jared Kushner too, I mean, it's like Soros connected, and they're like blaming the other side constantly. Like George Soros is funding you, but the Jared Kushner guy is actually in business with George Soros too. So.
Oh yeah! Score one for us.
Do you remember? Did you guys listen when he called? He was talking to the Queen, and he called Ireland property of the United Kingdom. You guys listening to that shit?
I don't think I heard that.
Yeah, like I was just like when I saw that newsreel come up on my pop up, I just like shrugged my head. I was like, everybody thinks that our fucking nation is like full of retards.
Yeah, you can't say such things. I mean, like in Ireland, it's like very sensitive too because there's still battles going on between like Protestants
Ireland,
and Catholics and stuff.
Catholics, long while.
I can't believe it.
Irish car bombs. Not just the green.
Oh no! You gotta believe the official story, son. They're telling the truth. Don't listen to those people, son. They may be telling you great information, but hey, listen to us. Bullshit and nepotism will get you far. I mean, it's for the winning team. Yeah, sure. Yeah. We're selling out to the winning team that's gonna choke in the postseason. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, shit in America. I predict, is gonna get worse. And it's not gonna be of the president's making. It's gonna be problems that have been building up for the last 100 years.
Right. I'd agree. I mean, and there's a lot to really decipher there in terms of what this is so long that and I've said it before. We do it to ourselves. We really do. We none of us can come together. We're all so divided that there's no action to be taken because when we try to think of an idea that maybe we could do something to try to combat the sort of issue or those list of issues, it's always like, well, somebody over there might get offended, or like it's always that thing where it's like so many different beliefs aren't gonna believe in the same thing. You know what I mean? It's so difficult that how do you even go about first fighting something so large for A, and B, how do you do that separate in different
and
sort of cognitive groups.
that's a dilemma right there, is because a lot of other countries have developed policies mimicking our own country, and there really is nowhere you can go. You know what I mean?
I'm going to Netherlands. I'm going to Netherlands and Germany. I don't know. Terrence still around. I'll go where he is.
Sorry about that.
It's in the chat, I think. We can't. He has some issues too with the audio. I don't know what's going on tonight, but the lead has some issues. Terrence.
It's probably the oppression of the elite.
Yeah, probably.
It gives me gas too.
Well, I mean, when I was saying that other countries have developed the same policies, like what country can you go to without a passport? Like why
Right.
why do we have passports? Why do a lot of countries have social security? It's the same similar shit. And you start thinking about who developed these policies.
Doesn't Russia still have you? Don't you still have to wait like 3 or 4 days to get a paper just to go to a different province in Russia,
I don't
just
know.
across the border?
That's
So,
pretty
like,
intense. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me as such. I mean,
they're pretty tight. They're pretty tight in Russia. Germany don't have nothing on Russia. I don't know if Germany still is bad. And if they ask for your ID on the buses, you have your ID.
Yeah, but in Europe it's different. Like with Germany, it's different because you can like literally go into like any European country, and then it will be super easy to get into Germany. Like you can go to all these other European countries first with like an airplane, and then you can easily get in because there are not really any borders anymore within Europe. So
Yeah,
Wow.
people are going to find their way through
Wow.
anyways.
well, the European Union, right? I mean, it's all one now, right? I mean,
yeah, there's not like technically there are still borders on the map, but there's no one actually there at these borders. So
right. So what is a border then? I mean,
yeah, and it's also weird because like like in the Netherlands you can like smoke weed, for example, that is illegal in other countries. So, but there is no border, so you can literally go from the Netherlands and transport your weed to another country. But it's
Just
illegal.
take a walk. You can walk all you want. Go swim. Yeah. Just don't tear up nobody's property, right?
Go my ass.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey,
I
speaking
go
of
with
this,
I go
Other
with
countries.
right. Fuck legality.
In Europe, in other countries, there's like fireworks is legal all year long, and in other countries it's illegal. And like there's also like in Belgium it's easier to get a weapon. That's like illegal in the Netherlands, but there's no border between Belgium and the Netherlands, so you can just get a weapon in Belgium and transport it to the Netherlands. Yeah.
Right.
There's
Well,
no literally
just a reminder, everybody, freedom isn't free. I mean, we all pay a price for freedom. Mainly safety, I guess. I mean,
that was the illusion
want
of
to
freedom.
put it. But,
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, right, within an oppressive government or with anybody oppressing anybody, there's no freedom. Because obviously, in a sense, it is oppression because we definitely are at the expense of their whatever they can do against us to like put us back in the line, and a lot of it comes down to things like food, water. Our basic ability to survive is dependent on their ability to provide it. Which they're obviously contaminating. I mean, the rise of neurodegenerative diseases and stuff like that. I mean, the numbers are great in that. We obviously have problems with hard metal poisoning. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, they've been putting fluoride in our water for decades, if not longer. I mean, and we're supposed to trust these people to help us when we're scared or like I think personally the plan is to depopulate every area of the globe to do whatever their
I think
agenda is.
it's 500 million. I think was the number.
Yep, exactly. I mean, exactly. Eugenics, they're practicing it. UNESCO's, being. I mean, Julian Huxley. If anybody just Googles the name and reads about the guy, then you'll know where it all started. Environmentalism. Let's protect the planet and let's this and that, and then we start dabbling in that. Next thing you know, they're like, people are killing the earth. Everybody is killing the earth, and it's a sham. It's a sham to get support from the people. They make an issue that really isn't exactly an issue per se, right? They make people scared using media. People get scared, and then they want to support a certain group that's going to fix it all, mainly government. And they say, well, I don't need these things in my life called freedom, and you can have them. Tell me when I do things, and clean my water, give me my food, and I'm happy with that. And that's how mainly people are, I think, and gives them power, gives them the ability to, suppress us, and it's a big deal.
Yo.
Yeah, the fluoride thing in your water, yeah.
That's why I barely even drink any water. With the fluoride and the shit. If there was some fresh water in there, I'd drink it heavily.
Well, and that, why don't we just vaccinate everybody and force them to? I mean,
I'm not vaccinating shit.
Me either. I mean, it's not happening. You're not getting me to put that shit in my body. I mean, that's something that like, for real, if people don't, most people don't generally even, and when they hear it, they don't care because
they don't want to hear it. I mean, they don't want to like detach from what they're like familiar with. They're like they're so in this illusion that they're being
again.
Protected.
It's familiarity. Thank you for saying that, Johnny. It's familiarity with the system.
One of the reasons
even though it's a shit situation.
One of the reasons
it's a
people
shit idea.
The whole thing with vaccinations, and I know I've had my experience with it, is, if you don't vaccinate your kids, they can't go to school. And if they don't go to school and you don't homeschool, what's the next thing that happens? You get arrested.
Yep.
Well, I mean, parents can be parents like it should be and homeschool their children.
But see that, yeah, homeschool. But you got the dad and the mom both working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. How are they going to do that? There is no way. That's the way the system is rigged. I mean, it's set up like that to where you can't do it.
The average household isn't growing their own food. The average household isn't doing those things. So of course they're going to have to, they're going to have the expenses that they need to cover to do certain things, right? Because they depend on a I guess, unnatural source of food.
Burn the goddamn thing to the goddamn ground already. Just burn this fucking system to the ground. I don't care if people get called Antifa for that. Burn the shit down. Let that goddamn economy collapse. I'm sick of this shit. Then we can have a better world for each other, for ourselves.
Well, it's actually much more complicated than just burning it down, because you have people that are completely dependent on the system that can't provide food, can't provide medical services, and old people and infants.
Well, the medical services is poison to me. Fuck it. It's poison.
The health system only treats, your symptoms. I mean, most of the time we're not treating an illness or something to that effect. I mean, even a common cold, whatever.
They're putting Band-Aids, yeah.
You're right. When you're feeling the symptoms, your body's actually fighting what's in it. It's doing the natural thing. It's actually a good thing to feel the symptoms. And people don't understand that. They feel the symptoms and then they go to the doctor, which really, you're probably past the point where the doctor needs to do anything for you anyway.
Well,
and they're just money at a wall.
There was. Remember the whole hype about genetic medicine. Which are the real cures for most diseases. Right. Remember how there was a lot of fight back, and it got this religious shit, like we're playing around with fucking shit. No. Genetics is, I believe, the end all cure to all medicines. Genetic correcting.
Well, I've heard stories that we already have metahumans.
Metahumans.
Wham.
Yeah. hybrid humans,
You mean
pretty
like-
much.
Oh, you mean like
We do so much stem cell research and everything that we already have them.
Well, yeah,
you know, test tube babies.
well they've done stem cell medicine is getting more advanced to the point where they can treat burn victims and minor and some major damage to tissue.
I mean, you can grow an ear now.
What?
And a heart.
I mean, you can grow ears now on labs. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, anything you can't 3D print, right?
And another thing about stem cells is they don't even have to use what they had been using. They can
use your own
pretty
blood.
much-
Yeah, they use your own blood and they filter it. Yeah.
And yet this, I don't know, is it still illegal? Or no, I mean, last time I heard it was,
No. It's legal, but no insurance company is doing it. And if you want to get it done, the procedure is going to cost you about $10,000 to $20,000.
Yo,
So I'm an average person.
money,
Yeah. So
satanic money.
Well, that's always been the downside of fascist fucking medicine is that people literally go bankrupt trying to get well.
when
Hey,
the
who's that one guy that he ended up getting arrested? That he was working for that pharmaceutical company and he ended up
the guy who had the Wu-Tang Clan shit, yeah. The Wu-Tang Clan albums, yeah.
ODB? Was
Yeah.
it ODB? Oh, Dirty Bastard?
Yeah, he portrayed himself when he raised the price of that one HIV medicine from like $40 to $800.
yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
Right.
he got indicted he got charged by the FBI, and his reasoning is that if anybody who didn't have the money, they could just email me or DM me, and I would send them the medications for free. This guy was a fucking piece of shit, and the law saw through it, which is like one of the few times the law actually did the right thing and locked this fucker up. But for that guy that they took out, another asshole fucking CEO fills his place.
Martin Shkreli or whatever the hell his name
Scarelli,
is.
yeah, Scarelli.
Yeah.
Scrotum.
I mean, anybody that wants to come together, wants to be, is nobody that wants to fight all these issues, in one place, we made it, I think that we do stand a chance. I have faith that we do stand a chance against, issues like these, as long as we're together, not divided.
I often feel that many of the world's problems would be solved if there wasn't as many, if the governments weren't involved,
What's that?
If the governments weren't involved, the advancement in medicine, would actually be where the point where we're curing every fucking disease,
Right, but if they're going to support that or anything like that, then they're going against their agenda to depopulate and to make a safe environment, or to make pollution free, whatever their environmentalist mindset is capable of thinking up as a reason for them to go against that. I guess they're going to do it.
If you guys remember Paul Walker, he was investigating some depopulation stuff, and they were using birth control to do that.
Right. That's another thing that might happen in this country is not in that aspect, but it's gone the reversal. Where the government's trying to kick out these abortion clinics and shit like that.
Right. I mean, Planned Parenthood. I mean, who is the co-founder of Planned Parenthood? And that's the co-founder of
Margaret
UNESCO.
Singer.
Exactly. And they are 100% into the whole eugenics scheme. Which is a thing that obviously they'll use to keep the elite's gene pool intact and alive and well, but the lower class people or the people who are less than high class, or whatever their elite class is, will be flushed out, and I think it's not a coincidence that the Planned Parenthood or whatever abortion clinics, and people promoting the I guess the fact of no more children type deal. Is a co-founder of the people who are practicing killing off portion of the population,
Like
and
the
in
Lilith
fact they
Foundation.
support it.
Oh yeah, the Lilith Foundation. I found that one on accident.
That original.
And what is the one thing that this can be considered as? An abortion, a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So-
I guess. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
think about it.
they're
It's the
looking
one
at it like-
thing that is public and is known by everybody, and yet it's overlooked. What people don't realize is, everybody is sacrificing children, and it's probably the one thing that is just ruining everything. I mean, I don't know. It's just
But that lady who founded Planned Parenthood,
Margaret Sanger.
she was originally looking to like depopulate the African American community
Yep.
in America.
right. I mean,
was that around the time crack and AIDS
That
was
and
going around so
people
bad?
promote this one. The Hillary Clinton's idol is Margaret Sanger. Shit. And they
That's
want me to
insanity.
vote
I mean,
for her.
Yeah.
Fuck that. They're all satanic.
Oh, that is pretty satanic. Like, who are you to decide?
Did you
like,
did you
what-
see
what's
that
the
video
movie
that
here?
was coming out with what they were doing with the fetuses? Though they were using the parts for medical services, like harvesting shit. Did you hear about that?
right.
I didn't even
chopping up little kids' heads off.
I
and
didn't
putting
even-
them in people's McDonald's or whatever.
I didn't even know that was a thing about using abortion babies to fucking use for medical harvesting. I didn't even know that was a thing.
They're selling them too. To different.
They can't sell it. Fuck it. Let's eat.
yeah, definitely. I mean, carnivorism is definitely a big deal. I mean, it's fucking happening. I mean, people don't understand that, like the Nexium group and, whatever, the satanic occult, they're doing it, and they aren't afraid, it's sickening, man.
If they can't sell it, either eat it or throw it in the fire.
Oh yeah, like the
Yeah,
cremation
they-
of care when they
Make
get
it
a
look,
mush.
make that shit look nice and pretty for Satan.
Deep fried and batter.
Yeah, deep fried aborted babies.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what the government loves doing. Deep fried aborted babies, bro. Yeah. Trust the people
I'm
who
sure
cook
there are
up
some
deep
doing
fried
that,
aborted
but-
babies with your life. Yeah.
Well, let me just point out one very imperative point. Okay, if you believe in Satan, you believe in God, right? You'd have to. There's no way you're going to have one without the other. And to have
I
power
think they're
over
both the
people
same.
is ungodly. And quite honestly, the power thing is it's stemming up pretty far, to the degree where people are dying, and we shouldn't support the system in any way, shape, or form. And anybody who says that we should, because if we don't, we'll die. I mean, people are dying anyway. I mean, in all reality, we get rid of the government and people die. I mean, we keep them in power, we are gonna die anyway. People are gonna die. Put your trust in something that's gonna die. Come on.
There's
No,
this
it-
dollar
We
bill.
get either way. What's the point?
It is a good point about the religion thing. I mean, if they're believing in like Satan and stuff, they have to believe in God in some form too. Especially with that Lilith Foundation thing too. You mentioned, Tyler. I mean, that is like a Catholic thing. I think like.
Yeah, the ancient demon deity. Actually, that goes before Catholicism and Judaism. She was described in Sumerian cultures before she was adopted into Judeo-Christian shit. So
Right.
that's some old ass shit.
Yeah, but she was adopted by the Catholic religion. Like,
Yeah.
it was like the first female with Adam or something in paradise. It was not created out of a rib, but she was already there.
Yeah, they
Something
were
like
created
that.
they were created as
Ah.
equals, yeah, and she was telling Adam what to do in the Garden of Eden, and she basically gave him
Right.
God the finger and said, I'm gonna fucking come and kill all your children. And then like literally like this Lilith fund shows up in 2008.
Yeah, and they were having like even a meme. They were having these ladies do abortions, and they have to say, "I'm meeting Lilith tonight."
Wow.
Posting that
Wow.
on social
Yeah.
media. I'm
Personally,
meeting
I
Lilith
think
tonight, and they're doing abortions.
One and the same. Me personally, I don't know about y'all, but I think they're just one and the same thing. It's both the same. Anyways.
Oh, it's pretty sick stuff for sure.
Well, yeah, they do the mock human sacrifice at the cremation of care at Bohemian Grove.
Oh yeah, they do that.
But
They're too busy doing
and
that.
if you look in ancient depictions of the Lilith, she's always depicted as like an owl woman, and they have a fucking 40-foot tall fucking owl carving where they do the cremation of care, where they do the mock child sacrifice.
Oh, like at the Bohemian Grove and that
Right.
that island that the
I don't know,
elites all have.
man. Some weird ass shit.
Isn't that how?
That,
Human sacrifice and pedophilia and satanic ritual. Government's
I mean-
daily activities.
right. Our blasphemous is something. If you would, God. I mean, if that doesn't speak volumes, I mean, what does? You know what I mean?
You know,
We want.
Don't blame anybody. Not even those who claim to be truthers. Oh, but we need the system. It's a blessing and a curse at the same. It's a curse and nothing more.
Oh, that's to concur. I mean, definitely, there's the evidence is there. Now, people would look away from Facebook and stuff long enough to,
I don't go on no
I mean, all right. Most people are though, and that's the problem. You know, we give them power. Bottom line,
Well, if you look at the founders of this country, they were all Masons as well.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they all did satanic rituals. Just
Right.
sacrifice some aborted babies. This has been there since the founding of this country.
definitely.
Actually, the founders of this country, you know what they're,
They're probably rolling in their grave.
they talked about, the new world. They called it the new world.
Well, Adam
So-
Weishaupt, I had plans for this country before it was established.
The Jesuit Adam Weishaupt.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, look at it all now. I mean, you gotta
It's
do
already
something, right?
coming into fruition. It's already
Yeah.
coming into fruition unless we do something.
Right, and it's hard on I mean, it's hard in general. Simply, I mean, people put themselves out there, and risk, and really, in our reality, all of our stuff is just censored anyway. It's like no matter where you go, I mean, where are you going to publish the media of the issues and give people, the platforms that need to be intact to really, I mean, a lot of stuff gets bought and paid for, and then next thing
You're breaking up, man.
Worm. Come on, dude.
But I mean,
Owner goodness, bro.
what's going to eventually happen, and it's going to happen. The younger generation, they're going to fade out just like we are. And when we die, who's going to be there? The front's getting smaller and smaller.
exactly.
And eventually, this has all been, it's a long plan, that slowly but surely it's all changing. And it's going on their side, not ours.
Yeah, they're
So,
just gonna wait us out.
We are on our own.
How old is the Queen of England? What, 2000 something? When's she gonna die?
I don't know, man. She's been around for 50 years.
I know, since forever.
How long the bitch gonna sit on her throne? Whatever it is.
She
I was actually,
For life, she sits on that throne for sure.
yeah, I was actually surprised when David Rockefeller died. I was like, holy shit, one of them died. How about that?
Did he actually die, or did he just fake his death?
I don't know. He looked like he was dying, so he already looked dead.
He can burn. He can rot in there. He can rot in the infirmary. Fuck that nigga.
The queen. How
I'm
old is
celebrating.
the queen? She's gonna live like 100 something. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she's like
101.
90 something.
Fuck.
She don't drink, she don't smoke, she don't have sex, so she's good to go.
she's living by their example. She's the example for what everyone's supposed to do, right? I mean, not have sex alone is like, I mean, fuck, dude.
I wouldn't touch
Now
it.
I'm thinking.
no
I'm
offense.
rethinking my whole MGTOW status now. I'm rethinking.
Hey, did you know that she has 2 birthdays?
No, I didn't know that.
Was it a
Holy
leap year?
shit!
It says Queen Elizabeth 2 birthdays fall around 2 months apart, and the date of the official birthday changes each year.
Wow.
Odd.
God
Is that a
damn
little-
it!
That's
So-
what you
so
call
how do we
money.
know- how do we know how old she really is then?
That's what I'm saying. It's a tradition for monarchs to have 2 birthdays. Was started by
That's
George
inhuman.
II back in 1748.
How many babies has she eaten?
What?
No shit.
She was born.
That's a good question.
She was born April 21st, 1926.
Holy shit!
But her official birth date changes every year, but it's usually held on a Saturday in June. Often the second one for convenience.
Because she's 92 then, officially.
Wow. Just wow.
Well, obviously she's not a spitter. So.
So something must be up, okay? Something must be up for her to live that long. That
Well,
shit
she
is
has good
suspicious.
medical staff standing by, so
Oh yeah, sure. That's not the only thing. I
She's
think
the
she-
first
I
ever
think she drank a
artificial
lot of blood to
intelligence.
live that way.
Well, how many heart surgeries did? What was it? The last Rothschild that died. He had like 8 heart surgeries or
So
some shit,
drinking blood, heart surgery.
or 8 transplants or some shit.
No, that Rockefeller guy had like 6 new hearts or something. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Wow. They had them on standby.
Wow. It really
I know
pays to
people
be
staying
on
alive
top, huh?
for Yeah.
You know how easy a heart pops up if you got a couple $billion.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. What's it called? The cartel, Mexico. We'll go on real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really how it goes. Yeah, that's true. If you pay for it, if you pay enough for it, they can get it anywhere for you, of course. Yeah.
Might not be
Well,
on
see-
ice when you get it.
Money's not even, in my opinion, I don't think money's a thing to them, because money is created out of nothing. You know, it's a piece of paper. I mean, that is just as valuable as the type of paper you'd use in your printer, in a sense. I mean, really, it's a masqueraded something that's worth something that's not really. You know, it has no actual value to it. You know, I mean, and in fact, they probably stole tons of gold making it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, between all the way up until 1960, they were taking all the gold. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the true value, or the actual physical thing that people had, you know, in America at least, was gold, you know, and people gave it for safekeeping to the banks in return for printing currency, right? I mean, and what what happened to that when they abolished the gold standard?
They stole it all.
You know?
They just kept it.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Right there, you know, and then what? You know, like, now we get this piece of paper that we all work for to do things like pay our bills and do things to survive. And yet nobody wonders where the hell the value comes from. You know, I mean, I shouldn't use a definitive, but I mean, I feel like no one wonders where the value comes from. And as far as I'm concerned,
Well, they
as
convinced
far
you
as I'm
that it's
concerned,
You've heard of The Wealth of Nations, right? That was the book that provided the ideological foundation for capitalism and the Industrial Revolution. This is the same year Jesuit Adam Weishaupt founded the Illuminati. I'm looking at this website at the moment. I'll give y'all the link. This is the entire history right here.
Oh, he's actually right, but it's all based on the trust thing that is actually founded on nothing. There's no reason to trust the monetary system, but the
Bullshit.
value of money is only there because people believe in it.
Belief,
So-
bro.
Well, you know, if
All comes down to belief.
well, Americans, haven't felt, the hard hit of, hyperinflation yet. Like Zimbabwe, where you need like $100 trillion to buy a fucking bottle of water. Then people,
Right.
when shit gets bad, people start wising up that maybe shit isn't like real. But that's what I'm saying. Like nothing in the American empire will change until shit gets real bad.
Yeah,
You're right.
but it also has to be done outside of the
Nothing.
U.S. It also has to be done outside of the U.S. because the Federal Reserve can like print endless money and then they inject it into the economy, global economy, and these other countries just accept the U.S. dollar as having that same value. They decide. Like,
Well,
No,
right,
that's-
and then
They're
that's how,
accepting it for face value.
Is
that's
that
how they
that's,
get more control. Is they basically want everybody to follow the American government's ways. The oligarchical movement, and they want people to adopt that, and those who don't just might get some money. And you look at Jamaica. Jamaica's a really big example, a good example. Where we basically sent in, these guys to promote taking a loan to better their whatever infrastructure, and they couldn't pay it back. Then we start building like military bases and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, but let's say you're like printing endlessly US dollars and you're like injecting like a few $100 new billion into the market. And you're just saying like, yeah, the value is 50 Chinese yuan, and you're injecting it. You're just printing it and you keep on injecting it for with the value of 50 Chinese yuan. Well, actually, if you print more, it should become worth less. But they're just saying
Right.
this is the value, and the other countries are accepting it. So that needs to stop too, because they can just trade it for these Chinese yuans, and then their printed money is suddenly they have it in yuans. And
I mean, do you think the reason they're accepting it is because they're afraid we'll bomb the shit out of them? I mean,
yeah, perhaps, yeah.
maybe.
U.S. owes China money, so
Right,
yeah, they're
right.
going to accept it.
Well, because this privatized bank is taking the United States debt to their money creation tactics, right, and selling it off to the highest bidder. I mean, why? I mean, it sounds like something that would start wars. Sounds like something that would be the cause for maybe the end of the world or another world war. I mean, the list is huge for the issues that could arise from something. I mean, it's fucked up that people would put their faith in an economy or something that is built off of nothing, absolutely nothing. And you got the guy who's getting all these heart transplants, and this guy who's got all this money because money's nothing. He could just print it,
I mean,
right?
look at the Catholic Church. I mean, they
Yeah, well, they're as satanic as Satan himself. I mean, they're doing things that go against what they want to teach. I mean, the letter J didn't even exist in the English language at the time of one of the first English translations of the Bible. I mean, and they call him Jesus. They masquerade him as this guy who has long hair. When in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, Jesus's right hand man says that for a man to pray with long hair is a shame. It's a shame.
Mhm.
So we know that what they're teaching isn't correct. You know what I mean? It's actually more blasphemous than it is anything. I mean, people don't look into things, bottom line. People don't pay attention. Sucks,
Yeah.
man.
well, unless if it's a commercial, they do.
most people paying attention is gay.
Right.
Paying attention? What the
What-
hell,
what-
nigga? That's gay.
We'll have to make an app for that.
Paying attention,
Oh, just-
reading,
just-
researching.
Just
That's
get the
homosexual.
just get the
Just look at the TV. It'll tell you everything.
just get the epilepsy app out. Don't pay attention.
Yep, exactly. There you go. Let's start planting that shit everywhere, all over, unknown online. Let's get the epilepsy memes out too. It's start trolling all the internet. Let's go. We could depopulate the whole planet ourselves then, couldn't we?
Oh. Well, we got some Alex Jones for you. Here, hey, fat ass. Sit back and scare the people for a couple half hours. Maybe then you'll get paid.
You know, I'm surprised that like an idiot like him, you know, how much money he makes. It's like fucking ridiculous. Like his content, the content that he puts out there is so. You ever listen to like Alex Jones? Like it used to be like good, but it's like.
I used to actually listen to him a lot.
Yeah, same
like
here. But
too much.
He was like.
When was that? Like before the year 2000 or something.
Yeah, he was really good back in the day, but then like he's bad and he's making more money than he was before. You know.
Well, I mean, he went down after, like you said, 2000.
Yeah.
Because you remember this 1999 episode with the whole New Year's Eve, the whole Y2K. That's when you knew he was a shill.
Yeah, Bill Cooper exposed him with that episode.
Exactly. Exactly. And where's Bill Cooper now? He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Like of November the 5th, even.
Yep.
What'd he do? Stab himself in the back 35 times and throw himself off a bridge?
No, they just shot him.
Yeah, police shot him.
Wow.
In his driveway.
The police suicided him.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
He exposed Alex Jones for sure, and he
also exposed 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who actually exposed 9/11 as what it really was probably is not alive. I mean, you think about it. I mean, if everybody knew the truth, then you know the support for a lot of things that happened at that time wouldn't.
Honestly, can get you killed.
Well, you know, there was in the dust samples, that somebody still had. There was found to be accelerated thermite. Yeah, and it wasn't just like a normal. It was a boron that was used as an accelerant. Just not something that you would find like in the natural elements that would be from a crumbling inferno. You know.
I mean, if you look at all the videos that are out, I mean, you can see it pouring from the building. I mean, that's the one subject I have done the most research on. That was is 9/11. I have blueprints, documents. I have everything that I found by doing research, and they blew the fucker up. That's all there is to it.
Cooper, it was special, right?
It didn't explode, dude. This shit pulverized.
But you remember this hive?
Explosions. It didn't get knocked. That shit got pulverized. The whole thing got pulverized into dust.
But you remember this hive with Bill Cooper? He said like 4 months before the actual event, it was like June of that year. He said they would blow up these twin towers and they would blame Osama bin Laden, right?
Right.
Live on air, he said it would happen. Like months before it happened, he said it live on air.
Yep.
And it happened.
Yeah, and it happened exactly like that. And he was murdered that year in November the 5th.
And Osama bin Laden was dead a couple months later after that.
Well, yeah, Osama bin Laden, I think, died, somewhere early on. His own brother said they had a funeral service for him, and they, I honestly think that Osama was dead a long time ago.
He was. He died. I think he died November too. I mean, he
died late 2001, December.
No, I think it was in November from
dialysis,
kidney
cancer.
Number 11. Number 11. Think about it. 9s and 11s.
Remember,
if you look into Freemasonry and stuff like that, 9s and 11s. Telling you.
Yeah,
they always do everything in patterns and numbers.
Remember there was a case back in 1999 after there was some guy that claimed that he knew Osama bin Laden, and this is where the Taliban or Al Qaeda got created, or at least the name was out of a court case from 1999 from a guy that said that he knew Osama bin Laden, but even the DA and the prosecutor were saying that this guy was making up a lot of shit, and they kind of made Al Qaeda look like a band of thieves that were really organized and all that, but you ever heard of anything about that?
Actually, what I heard is Al Qaeda was actually the CIA's code word that they end up labeling the Taliban with, pretty much.
I mean, that's just like ISIS. I mean, ISIS is. I mean, they create these issues, man, to power over the people, 100%. You know,
Yep.
I think a lot of these issues, you know, stem from ourselves. You know, our trust in the government. You know, when we are entrusting them to do the right thing, we're entrusting them to, you know, to service us per se, because that's what it is it's a service. You know, it's not needed. You know, like then we're just giving them, you know, all the ability to, you know, impose
mean,
on anything.
Power corrupts. I mean, it's been said. I mean, and you put any man in that much power, they're gonna do shit. There's
Right. And with that in mind, I mean, look at how, you know, activism is falling apart. You know, I feel like that's a big reason. You know, I feel like there's a lot of activists, but not a lot of them working together. You know, not a lot of them working to get together. You know, I think that's a big thing.
there's so many issues, though. I mean, there's so many issues, and you try to focus on what you think is a real button issue, and you got somebody else that's doing this over here and this over here, and everybody's divided. I mean,
well,
You
yeah,
really
I
got to
mean,
find a way to avoid the drama. The he said, she said.
yeah,
bullshit.
right.
This
Well,
one's doing that. This one's doing this. You know, don't be in it. Quit being in everybody's shit so deep. Man.
Well, not only that, when you're trying to exercise your right, in protest, that's even becoming an issue. You know, where there's so many countermeasures to try and get you off the streets to hold that fucking sign or do whatever the fuck you're gonna do. You know.
Yeah.
Huh. That may be a whole
Right.
point of the real ID thing. So you're not at the courthouse holding up protests. I thought, oh, let me see your identification. Oh, it's not a real ID. You got your star and badge on your shoulder.
I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not gonna give you no identification. Fuck that.
Oh, you're
Kill
going to
me.
have to. You won't be able to go to court. You won't be able to go to the state park. You know, who knows how far they're really going to stretch this. They're just telling you it's just keep you off of military bases. And
if you don't abide by their laws, then you have no money because they can shut you off.
Yeah, they can take all your money, take your assets, take everything you own.
they're eventually going to move it into the whole cashless where you're even using your driver's license right now to pay for stuff. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
This has been
What-
declared
what's
an
that?
unlawful assembly.
Yeah.
You know, in itself, I mean, the freedom of speech thing is enough to prove their sort of agenda. I mean, and really, I mean, what's a better way to make people weak but to take all their guns? Now they have these kids going and protesting, skipping school to protest to ban guns, you know, to disarm America, but they don't even probably understand the implications that has. You know, they're not old enough.
They don't understand.
They actually interviewed some of them kids, and most of the kids were like, well, I don't know, I'm just going to get out of school.
They
I mean,
don't understand. A lot of them don't even understand the right to bear arms is only a portion of the full sentence in the Second Amendment. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
no, they have no idea.
we're to be able to protect ourselves in the event that the government.
Well, it's in relation to a regulated militia, you know, against a tyrannical government. But
The kind
Right.
of government we have now.
Exactly.
You just can't have an automatic weapon.
Right, because they're
But
going
they
to have
can.
automatic. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they
You
don't
can't have
want
this or that.
people-
They'll seize your kids if you don't have this kind of ID by such and such time. You can't go here and there. It's slow.
Right.
Slow, very slow process. We won't be alive to see it, but
And for us to understand that we have a disadvantage gives us the advantage in a sense, you know, because, you know, if we don't, then we are disadvantaged 100%. You know, like if it comes time, I mean, they practiced during Hurricane Katrina, disarming Americans, lawful
Yep.
Americans who own guns. You know, they're like, oh, these people aren't going to be being able to have guns and, you know, stuff like that. I think one of the chief of police or something like that talked on the television when that happened and said it. You know, they're not going to be allowed to have guns. And what they do, they sent in the military to stack on these homes, and they took their guns. But
Yeah, do you remember that video they had with the old lady with the revolver, and they pretty much tackled her in her door?
Yeah, she was later killed.
And they-
She was later killed by somebody who tried to like rob her, and she didn't have a gun to protect herself, right?
Yeah,
I
what
don't know
was
if she
it?
got
Well,
killed, but
and what was
Wow.
it? The Oakland police or something like that got sent in there to help, and really they were going around looting and raping people, whatever themselves. I mean, and these people were depending on the so-called government to help them, and the cops to help them, and in all reality, they were getting the same stuff from the police departments being sent in there to help. Like in a time when people really need guns. I hope everybody's got them, because if we don't, I mean, it's crazy.
Fact.
You can't never prep for something like that. The best prepper knows you don't prep, because you're going to not have everything you don't need.
Right.
by the way, I posted that video in the chat there with the
Thanks,
old
bro.
woman.
I mean, and on top of that, if the federal if whoever comes to our homes, to raid us and check us out, if we have more than a week's food of food, they're going to take it. You're not going to be able to hide a old bunker in the ground, and they're going to find it. I mean,
Right.
they already practice raiding drug dealers' houses. Oh, we find your stash behind your painting.
Right. Or your hidden room in your basement, whatever.
Well, you guys got like a majority, and your government will do anything to disarm you, and because they can't face an armed majority, they want the monopoly on the weapons, and
Because
that's
they're
what
weak.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have the mass majority of the population. I mean, as civilians, it's the government. I mean, granted, the military's pretty damn big, but if with everybody standing.
Yeah, because I mean, not everybody in the government is gonna back what they There's gonna be people they're gonna be like, hell no, I ain't gonna disarm people. But there are gonna be people that are. I mean,
Yeah, but that might be their weakness to like actually appeal to their families, to the family of these soldiers.
Soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll play on the
Ah,
heartstrings
fuck
for sure.
them.
I think a lot
Fuck that.
of government though
I mean, there
Their
are a lot of
will
good
die
followers
at a
are
very young
not
age.
worthy of my fucking respect.
Well, some of them
I
just want
spit
like
on
defend the country. They don't know anything about these things.
Well, yeah, what they were supposed
Yeah.
to.
They're
Following orders.
imperialist overlords, dude.
How they don't know this? I mean, they're just following these orders. These people
Yeah.
are not research.
Just doing what I'm told.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah, well,
Right.
you swear an oath when you become a soldier to protect and uphold the United States Constitution, both foreign and domestic. But what they don't realize.
Yeah. The
I mean,
U.S. Constitution, 1871,
Yeah.
Torah Act, fight, protect the corporation.
Well, essentially, yeah.
The book's right there.
Well, essentially, yeah. That's what they've been doing for the last 100 and something years. Is just resource
130 years.
resource jacking.
It's a resource war.
of
The war
course.
started without a shot being fired and started
All
silently.
of them suck, dude. Police and military, same shit. Their order follows. Soul Dyer. Soul is dead. What's going on?
They even found a way around habeas corpus. When Obama signed that NATO shit.
And Siri Juris.
Yeah,
Biggest course. Yeah, Siri Juris, I know about them very well.
yeah.
You
NATO.
can't sign yourself out of jail anymore.
Yeah, NATO.
Praising him like he's God. Yep, black people praising this dumb, the satanic ass nigga like he God. Everything is satanic. Police, military, government, education, all of it. Even religion. Every single last one of it. Dead. It's theirs. They own everything. The only thing they don't own is us, is our hearts. That's it. Everything else they got in the vice grip. Even sports!
Didn't when Obama signed that shit, for the NATO to be the police in case if worst came to worst end all situation, didn't like the next month the God, it was ICANN handed their shit over to a NATO-based company. Am I wrong about that? It was like in October.
Yeah, it was
2016.
first. It was
something like that.
no, you're right. First, it was controlled by the United States only, and then it was handed over to
the NATO.
to an yeah.
That's some scary ass shit.
Because countries were complaining that the United States was in full control over the internet, and they wanted more control. So then the US gave it over to NATO. Yeah.
Isn't the U.S. part of NATO anyways? They're all part of Five Eyes as is, right?
It's just the same group of people. The NATO, the United States is like the majority payer to the NATO. They pay the most money to NATO. So, and all these other countries, they all just follow the same NATO rules. So it's actually just the same thing. But now they got like this illusion of, not like U.S. controlled internet. There's now. It's like the illusion that it's now free or something, but it's still a NATO alliance. Like, Bilderberg, North Atlantic agreements.
More so, I think they control sports too. The more I look at it, the more it's like they own sports. They I don't think they own the players, but they own the star players. They own the owners, the coaches, all of that shit. Every single team is owned. Every single team is owned. I've been a sports fan. I've been a sports fan since the beginning.
Well, you heard about the NFL is all rigged, right?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I heard about that, and the more and more I look at a lot of urinating tree videos, the more and more I start to see it. Sports is rigged.
Well, I don't know if you're into soccer, but a bit of FIFA is the same thing. So.
FIFA? Yeah. All of it owned, controlled. Speaking of which, I was going to talk about one of those Sam Gold. You know what I mean? He was a football player, and it wasn't until 2007 that he saw even that was rigged. He was like, "What the fuck am I doing in here? This isn't fun. This is bread and circus."
You can just apply. You can just apply WWE to all the sports, bro. It's all rigged.
Nobody's taking a dive in my fights.
Fuck that. Fuck that. Yeah. Super Bowl. They bring that shit all the time, nigga. Oh, wait. Oh, I know the other team is winning, but hey, ref, that's your job. Even though that team is winning, your job is to screw over their opponent, the other team. Right here. Screw them over. Job these motherfuckers, nigga.
At some point, money just gets more important than the actual stuff. So, yeah, of course, it gets rigged down. I mean, if it's all about money, they're going to gamble with it, and you have
and bet.
Yeah.
Paying you $15 million a year to win 5 games, you can lose the next 12.
Yeah, sure. Win 8 games, lose the 8 games.
Well, then what happened?
No postseason for you, nigga.
What happened to
the Cubs? No postseason for you.
The Cubs really fucked that one up. They lost for 100 years.
The Boston Red Sox hadn't won a World Series in how long?
Well, they finally won.
Yeah, same thing with the Super Bowl.
The Patriots have been every year for the past, 3, 4?
And it's been here ever since every terror attack has happened. Or every major crisis has happened. That's when they've gotten good.
Yeah,
there's a correlation with that.
Got to pump up the American spirit with the Patriots.
Oh, that's the Roman thing.
The
Colosseum.
Yeah. Tom Brady, get out there. We're the Illuminati. We're paying you, Brady. Get out there and cheat.
What?
I wonder how much they're paying Colin to get out there and kneel down just to create a fight.
Oh.
Hey, man, go out there and put your knee down on the field, see what they're going to say.
Oh, it's almost like that. Oh, we got another one. Hey, Jerry. Yeah, I want you and Roger Goodell to start infighting. Montreal, we're paying it. We're staging this shit. We're betting on it. After all, we're the Illuminati. We own sports, nigga. Get out there and infight. Hell yeah, man. We got this shit on control, man. The fans are gonna eat this up. Hey, ESPN, we're gonna destroy everything that's supposed to be about sports. We're gonna make it personalities only. Hey, Falcons, get out there and start choking.
You know they've been blotching that out if they've been taking a knee. I think.
Yeah. Oh wait, the Falcons are gonna win? No. Hey, wait. Yeah, I told you to choke, right? You're not supposed to win. You're supposed to choke. Get out there and choke. Hey, Ben McAdoo, get out there and start derping. And get OBJ hurt. Hey, it's our fucking league, man.
Has anybody been following Julian Assange in the last week or so? Anybody?
No, I did find a post back in 2011 where he was, talking about how everything was going on now.
Yeah,
We're
So
leaking
the
surface of
so
information.
the talks.
What about 9/11? No, I don't want to talk about 9/11.
The talks about
Yeah.
evicting Julian Assange has been getting more real, and this new guy that's the president in Ecuador has been calling him a stone in Ecuador's shoe, and is trying to evict him and communicating with the UK government. It's I don't know, man. This is seriously fucked up, and this is kind of what I thought was going to happen. He's not even allowed, regular visits to, communicate with the people he needs to communicate.
Masters?
And Johnny,
God damn, man.
Was that again, Tyler?
Oh yeah.
Julian Bin Laden can't,
Julian
can't
Assange.
talk to his masters.
Yeah, Julian Assange can't talk to. He's not being allowed to talk to anybody he needs to talk to, and there's been serious talks with the UK government, with the Ecuadorian government, and trying to get him evicted.
Yeah, that's true. It's still going on. They're blocking him, but he's got like this army
Again,
of
it's a
journalists
show.
now. So
Yeah.
Julian Bin Laden's trying to hide. Julian Bin Laden. No one can catch me now. I'm in my fucking cave. It's a goddamn character.
But he's not allowed to to leave, and I don't know, man. Like, I kind of knew this was gonna happen, but like I don't want to see it end the way it's probably gonna end, but.
yeah, well, people will see what happens after that. I mean, all these whistleblower sites will all disappear suddenly, and then people will be fucking shocked. It'll be too late then.
Yeah,
Really
next thing you know, journalists will be able to, well, they're going to go after journalism, and then freedom of speech, First Amendment,
Yeah, they hate that. They want this disappearing, so they're targeting, and they're using these examples. Whether he's a shill or not, they're using him as an example to take down the rest too, and that's really what bothers me too a lot. And it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time, and that will be like the end of online journalism, I think. So.
I'm surprised he isn't doing anything crazy like talking to the reporters like out in the window,
Yeah, he should.
God damn, sounds weird.
It should be though.
Yeah. There is some hope that like another country might like bring him in or something, and maybe Ecuador could have like a diplomatic envoy to this other country that might make some deal or something. But yeah, I don't know. Other countries need to stand up for journalists, because I know they're all scared of the United States and the influence of these people, especially the military establishment, but. I'm pretty sure there are some countries who would stand up against that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, Hive. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I just don't know what kind of mental state he's in.
For all these years. No.
And nobody knows. He's probably scared out of
Yo.
his mind. That's where I would be.
Yeah.
Yo, Hive, you there? Owner! What's going on,
back.
homie?
Or your new owner is
Yeah,
here. Is
we
back.
kind of drifted off and talked about sports, and then we got back on topic, and we talked about Julian bin Laden.
I was actually able to still listen because I had the PC on live stream, so I was probably a little far behind. But pertaining to the sports thing, I mean, what did the Romans do when the government lost, or when the people lost faith in the government?
So
You know, just
Roman
like-
circus, yeah.
Yeah, they built a Roman Colosseum. You know, to keep people distracted from the issues that they disagreed with. You know, they distracted the populace with the Colosseum and people
Yeah,
fighting.
that's- That's what I was trying to say earlier too. I mean, these games, this entertainment system is totally created to keep people distracted from all these wars and these things, keep them happy. Yeah, of course.
I think things like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and stuff is a great example for that as well. You know, personally, I don't support that because I know, I mean, once you start looking at where the money's come from and walk down the trail of, you know, truth, I mean, I mean, most people wouldn't support them anymore either. I mean, it's pretty intense. I mean, most people who have exposed things that are critical to the government, I mean, they're not alive anymore, you know, or at least they're imprisoned or in some fashion, you know, like, I don't understand the whole Julian Assange thing and how he's able to, you know, I mean, even remain alive. I mean, they've got people everywhere, you know, and we're talking about the Illuminati in itself. I mean, not just one government, you know, I don't understand how he's still able to run this site and all that. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it does, but
he's not running the site anymore. It's been running independently, like, for a while now. Yeah.
Right, you're right. I guess I can't forget about that. I mean,
But like,
still, I mean,
he has a benefit. He's literally the space that he's in that embassy is like would be like the legal out of bounds zone, you know, like where nobody can touch him and fuck him and kill or fuck him up and kill him. But like he's stuck there, in the powers that be don't want him there and are trying to like legally evict him, and so they can feed him to the wolves, you know.
and I mean, isn't there somewhere to be able to sort of transport him as well, under that same sort of pretense where he's protected? You know,
that's been thought of, but like, what's going on?
yeah. What the hell is that? I mean, that's.
I don't know. No, but you know, I was under the impression once you go into a diplomatic car or a diplomatic plane, that space, the car, is legally considered a piece of that country and are not subject to the laws of the land. So I'm wondering, you know, if he reached out to another embassy or was able to be transported into a diplomatic plane, would be able to circumvent all of that, what is happening. But I don't think anybody is going to play by those rules. I think they're going to nab him just like a mob, you know, and just fucking do whatever the fuck they're going to do.
You know, the Americans did that, right? With the plane in Zurich.
Yeah.
It was also a diplomatic plane, and they were
grounded
not allowed to take it down, but they still forced it to go down, and they broke all international rules.
Yep.
All agreements were broken by these American military people.
You know, a lot of people aren't even aware that Julian helped Snowden get out of China.
No, they don't know about that. But also, Julian Assange didn't exactly get into all of this without any support, of course. There are people who are also behind him, which are actually also legit groups behind him, like the Chaos Computer Club or Wow Holland Foundation. These are huge hacker communities. It's not
Right,
just
right. I mean, where was he getting all this information from? Too? I mean, not just people who were within the, I mean, the places that the information was coming out about. I mean, I can almost guarantee you that, like he was, getting stuff. I mean, I don't know. I know he had a lot of hacker support. I know. I guess around the time,
I can see these doubts. Why would he still be alive if all these other people get murdered for like speaking out like that? I understand that, but I do know that, for example, their donations are blocked, and now it's the Wow Holland Foundation accepting donations for them. And the Wow Holland Foundation is that's the creator of the Chaos Computer Club in Germany. It's like that's like the largest or most influential hacker community that ever existed. I mean, these people are very serious with what they're doing. I mean, and it was also the Freedom of the Press Foundation accepted donations before. It was the foundation created by Edward Snowden. I think it was like a present to WikiLeaks, I guess, for helping him out. Yeah. Snowden is also a difficult thing. We don't talk about that very often, but
yeah. I mean, it is. I'd agree 100%.
I don't know about that situation either. He's in Russia, and why would he be safe at this point? I don't.
Right. I understand. He's seeking refuge, and I guess from a country that doesn't necessarily like America. But so I mean, just I don't understand that ties. Under the Illuminati, they're the people who run everything. I mean, they got handed just about anywhere, and if they really wanted them, I mean, they would probably have them or something to that effect. I mean, it's sort of a red flag to me is that
is true.
He's still everything that he's sort of doing or done or whatever is still intact. Whereas, any other in history, it's shown that wouldn't be the case. Bottom line is that's volumes to me. I'm sort of thinking about it like, is it really like a controlled thing that they have kept in place to maybe obscure some things or obviously the real? I just in my own personal life.
I think something happened. Like, he was still talking about his personal life, but then audio dropped.
Oh, I hear it's compressed data. Something's wrong.
Bad microphone for sure.
I do get what he
Bad
means. I mean, that the fact that Assange is still alive, for example, that is strange because they could actually kill him, even like fake a natural cause or something, like that he suddenly becomes ill or something. That's very possible. On the other hand, if you kill him, he will probably become like a sort of internet messiah and make things worse because the actual crew behind WikiLeaks will still exist and they will have like their own messiah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, so I got a message about from Commander X saying that the issue with is the Ecuador embassy is not a compound but an apartment, so there's no way for him to get into diplomatic limo without crossing UK soil.
It's not like they didn't do they haven't never done disappearing acts before, so that's the like they did it with Snowden too. They put him like all over the world, and he actually
Snowden when he was stuck in limbo, when he was stuck in that box with that reporter, like that place they put him, they were almost guaranteed to be fucked. They were just lucky that the Russian government gave them the okay to stay. You know.
Yeah, yeah. But they did pulled everything out of their trick book to actually fool the governments, and it actually worked. It's an amazing story, anyway. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that to not to attack WikiLeaks or something, but of course in any organization there are some infiltration things going on. But for Julian Assange to be in in an embassy for 8 years now and not able to even see his kids and all these things, and I don't think anyone would want this. Whatever he comes from, this must be a very damaging to him and to his family and all these things. So,
Yeah, and he's got kids, right? So
yeah, he's got kids. They're not even able to see him. I mean, he doesn't even see daylight, this guy. So, yeah.
this is not the first time this has happened. Remember, he was on house arrest for a while. So
Yeah. It's pretty disturbing to me. And, of course, they could have murdered him maybe, and but they're already silencing him right now. I mean, he can't even do anything himself.
he can't even get talk to his legal team or whatever. So
I know it's you can say maybe it's all a game and stuff, and his reach is big, but the reach is not that big. I mean, it's not a geopolitical game anymore. I mean, this is just one. Now it's just like one of the whistleblower or supporter of whistleblower being silenced, right?
yeah, that's their strategy. They know that once he disappears from the media, that's when they're going to nab him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's how it's going to be, sure. But there will be others for sure. I mean, but the problem is whatever they do against WikiLeaks and in a legal sense, that will also apply to anyone going next after that. So it's you don't allow a site like WikiLeaks to leak sensitive information, and what's next? And then other sites can't do it either anymore. It will all disappear. Even simple sites like Pastebin and stuff, you can't dump any information on it anymore because it will be illegal to do so. Yeah, there's a fine line between journalism and whistleblowing, but.
That was a fire alarm.
Yeah, remember they happened to Serena Shims as well. Remember when she broke that story and then they killed her too?
Yeah, exactly. And other whistleblowers are all being treated like that. And you're talking about Chelsea Manning, for example, also. It's put in a jail cell for years.
What's up with this one? I'm not following it. Is a reality winner. What is going on with that?
It was also a whistleblower, and she's also being targeted very hard by the government right now. She does get she does get some support, but she was also an intelligence specialist, kind of like Snowden, and he had to do with the NSA as well. Let me see what her official charge is. She was charged with removing classified material from a government facility and mailing it to a news outlet.
Oh,
They're going to the wrong people.
Yeah. Because he leaked data from the NSA, and let's see. It was I think The Intercept wrote a story about it.
Commander's telling me that she pled guilty.
Oh yeah, she made a plea deal a short while ago. I read that too. That's true.
You guys hear me?
Yeah. You can just turn off the video camera though.
How do you?
Oh,
I don't know exactly how to do that.
There'll be a camera if you go on the middle of the screen. If you touch it, there's one for a phone, but there you go.
Nice, much better.
Yeah.
This microphone might work a little better too.
You're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another way. You speak up against the government, and bad shit will happen to you.
Right.
Data.
I mean, it's I don't understand personally, just how, like, just going back to WikiLeaks, how it's still like a thing. It's how could it be still like? I mean, they wanted to shut it down. They've in history done it before. No reason why they couldn't do it now. So why wouldn't they? What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, well, there are some cases where they actually did fail to shut down projects. I mean, the Pirate Bay is an example of it.
Yeah, they couldn't shut that
Yeah,
thing
you're
down. They tried.
Yeah.
They tried with a
Yeah.
team of lawyers, and the team. Remember they were constantly moving the server from country to country to country to country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty smart. Pretty smart, if you ask me.
It's like they get a case against them, and then they moved it to like the Ukraine, and then they moved it to Estonia and Lithuania.
Right.
Yeah, they play some games. They actually have like hundreds of different domain extensions. And they all link them to different IP ranges. in different countries.
Yeah.
Don't
mean,
fuck with
well-
Anakata, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, but I do get what the owner means. I mean, yeah, they could. Yeah, technically they could just kill him. Yeah. Why
Right.
not?
I mean, and unless we know their processes, we will never know unless we really try or want to, I guess. I mean, we'll never really know the truth unless we really open our eyes to search and find it. And that goes with everything, not just that. We got to be vigilant, vigilant 100% of the time to make sure that whatever information we're being fed, we're definitely looking into it, instead of rather just taking it and calling it truth, because we've been told lies before in the past. I mean, we can't just throw our trust around like, it's nothing. I mean, it is something.
Yeah, though they did try to kill it in 2009, 2010, and the site was actually taken down, WikiLeaks, and at that point, like the internet started to act, and we all started to set up mirrors of WikiLeaks back then.
Right. I do remember that. It was definitely a big issue.
2,200 mirrors or something were set up.
Yeah, that's a crazy amount of support too. I mean,
Well, everybody
yeah,
loves
that's-
free music, bro, and free fucking DVDs. Like you can't stop that.
Right.
Yeah, there were 2,200 WikiLeaks websites, all like different domain names, and they were like all clouding Google.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were talking about the Pirate Bay. My bad.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's
that's the same thing.
Oh yeah.
The Pirate Bay too, like a billion Pirate Bay clone sites, proxies, and everything. Yeah.
Business.
Wait,
Yeah, I've just been chilling.
I don't do torrents myself personally because that's actually a tactic to
I think Commander X wants to get on. Hold on.
What the fuck?
Now I'll put him in. I mean, he knows a lot about these things too. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. I'm out. If he gets it, I'm out.
that's all you. Shoot.
Your owner.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm just glad it's just us around here. Hey, yo, where's Hive at? You still here?
He's AFK.
Oh, god damn it.
He's in the call, but he's muted.
Who's muted?
He said something about putting his cat to bed. And I reckon his cat's outside or a very big cat.
Oh, man.
Oh, one of them little African
Yeah,
cats
I was
about 3 foot
also
tall,
AFK, even though I
like
also
a leopard.
I didn't really talk. I just wanted to listen into what you were saying. Not to mention for the fact that I had to also get the scoreboards and stats right for the story. You know what I mean? The Sam Gold experience, his time in football in 2001 when he actually won the championship. He didn't really see until 2007 when he was like Wait a fucking minute. This shit is fixed. I'm retiring from this bitch. I'm going back and making music. Yo,
Oh wow, sounds like I just lost somebody.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I just heard like dead air for a second.
Mic check.
everybody's getting bored from the story. Hooray! First motherfuckers ready to get bored of me. Thanks.
Yeah. I won't be the first one
Oh
to
yeah,
sleep tonight. Thank you.
here's a good one. I had a topic. Was when Google was fined $5.1 billion in its Android antitrust violation laws, basically promoting their own Android operating system, which is kind of like fucking weird. Like I understand where the EU is coming from it, but I also understand that Google was kind of overplaying it, like they dominated, they owned it. But the underlying under the hood, which is basically, correct me if I'm wrong, John. Isn't Android based on an open source? It's based on an open source operating system, correct?
We are Google. We are Google.
Hey, Jalil, can we?
Yo.
He's talking, so I can't hear him or whatever because.
Yeah. Isn't Android's built off of a free operating system? It's based off of Linux.
Yeah, it's a Linux-based system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All phones are so many phones are using it. It's like the main alternative to like the iPhone stuff. So.
Well, it's the only.
Yeah, you can
I mean,
put backtrack on it.
Besides like Windows. I mean, I know there had been those Windows phones or whatever, but primarily Android was or is, the operating system for the phone. I mean, and essentially, if you don't have an iPhone, you probably 9 times out of 10 have an Android phone if you're not using a flip phone. I mean.
Yeah, and there's been other mobile operating systems that are out there. They're not popular. Like Google had their own. It was called like what the Fire fucking whatever the fuck it was called.
Firefox.
No, I forget what the fuck. Google.
Sorry,
yeah.
Amazon. Sorry, Amazon. Amazon had their own. Yeah.
That was that
Fire Stick.
Kindle, right? Or
something like that.
Kindle Fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Hats out there to the fucking fuckers that fucking find fucking Google. Though I mean, like, how come I don't understand how Google got a $5.1 billion charge, but Cambridge Analytica, Facebook or Cambridge Analytica only got a $500,000 fine. Like, how the fuck does that happen? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
like, okay, like this is like, so like, they're just kind of sweeping what Facebook did like under the rug, but.
Actually, Google agreed to pay $17 million to 37 states and the District of Columbia in a settlement over tracking consumers online without their knowledge.
DC isn't even a part of the United States.
It looks like November of 2013 when it was reported.
Yeah, just. I don't know. I honestly thought that would have been the demise of like Facebook, which it is in decline, when that whole Cambridge Analytica thing came out. But, then I start seeing the Facebook ad media campaign coming out, and with your friends are your friends, and we're so sorry, but we're starting to promote more bullshit with their fucking biased agenda. Yeah.
Right.
It's also a generation thing too. You got to think. People that grew up with Facebook and people who grew up with different platforms are going to stick to those platforms because that's what they're familiar with.
Then, I should have stayed on MySpace, bro.
I mean, honestly, you're probably right. You're probably onto something with that because, I mean, quite frankly, you don't hear about MySpace. When it comes to these issues, you don't hear about it. I mean, with MySpace, they're dead, like.
I checked my MySpace. It's
Bro, like-
completely different.
bro, like when we were using MySpace, like we were getting like me and my friends and the stuff that we were doing, we were getting away with things that you would never get away with on Facebook. Like back in the day, like like we weren't modding like Drugs Forum before Drugs Forum UK was like a thing. Like we were doing the same thing on MySpace before there was a Silk Road. Like we were like that was like the wild wild west of like social media,
All right.
Facebook is so
all right.
strict; they're watching everything.
Yep. MySpace. I actually used to listen to music on MySpace. Damn. I actually had a MySpace account at one point. Wham! I was 15. I was 15.
There were some different times for sure.
I don't even think the report button had even been thought about.
I have no idea what MySpace is. Never used it. Had it.
Yeah, and nowadays people are more familiar with the Facebook report button than they are with our human rights.
Hey guys, with
Yeah.
32 reports, we'll get it down.
I was never really a Facebook kind of dude. Never really
you know,
was like that.
I hate to contradict, what, some things that, I love to contradict what fucking Zuckerberg said about how people own their own content, on Facebook, but content creators can't make a profit off their own content, that's like that's some
Right.
fucking backwards shit, like. So, but they'll also incorporate, if you get so many likes and so many views, just like on YouTube, they'll start incorporate sponsored ads that they're making money off of on your own content. And I'm like, well, shouldn't the content creator be making money at the same time that you're making money off of it? Like, you're just getting a little nudge off the fucking chip,
Right.
I don't
That's a
know.
good point.
Did
I mean,
I
you
mean,
guys hear how they caught the Florida rapper killer? What's his name? Extinct. I don't know his name. Had three X's.
Extentacion.
Yeah. Well, they caught his killer by his flip flops. They recognized his flip flops in Instagram photos.
for real?
Yeah.
so what happened with that now?
The rapper
So
Extentacion. I've been mourning his death for over a month.
I don't know. People,
Well,
A month and a half, actually.
Truth be told, Instagram's owned by Facebook. It's the same company. In fact, they both are at one hacker way, in Menlo Park, California.
So you already see law enforcement's using it.
What?
Law enforcement's already using it.
Yeah, that they've
Right,
they've already gave. I remember like it was like 2009 or 2008. Like Facebook openly admitted that they were handing over the keys to the FBI and law enforcement agencies. So it wouldn't surprise me that it took them. That they've been on Instagram. They will be on whatever social media they need to be on. To gather whatever evidence they need to get against you.
Right. I mean, that's why they're not safe platforms for things like what we do. I guess it goes right back to what we
It's not safe for the public either. Like we go back to the pedo thing, right?
Right, you're right. I can't. I guess we gotta acknowledge that. The people need to understand that these people want to make money and these people want to make power. Those two things they're gonna do by all means. And however it works out, it's gonna work out for their better good. If we allow it. If we don't, we can all delete Facebook. I know I have. We can all. Migrate.
Even though if you delete it, you're still going to look after who you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, but going forward, at least we could have better practices. I mean, 100%, that's all we can do. I mean, what happens is definitely going to remain what happened. I mean, we can't deny that, but, going forward, we could definitely go forward, do something, and it's an important deal.
Right.
Do you not think so?
What?
I mean, do you not think so, or?
Oh no, I'm. You know, there was a few things along the way. You know, Facebook tried to incorporate security and this and that. I remember at one point they had an alternative login from www.facebook.onion, and now if you use that link to try and log in using a Tor, your account will automatically be locked, and you're going to have to prove who you are with a government ID.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, show me a star.
The honey
Right.
pot it again.
Yeah, I've seen a couple cryptocurrency sites too. Now that you bring that up, actually, they're requiring you to identify yourself via state or government ID. You know, one of them mainly Hashflare.io. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that cloud mining service, but you know, they're starting
Plenty
to.
on Google.
Yeah, I think they're calling it KYC, and Know Your Customer.
Right.
Yeah, you can't get onto most of these cryptocurrency trading sites without giving them your ID. Yeah.
Yep. That's how they track you.
I mean, and that defeats the whole purpose of using it, in my opinion. I mean,
yeah,
you know, why?
Still fucking monetary system.
I think for digital wallets, I mean, you still got more of a selection, but to actually purchase the currency or to trade it from one to another, yeah, you still got to use your ID at some point along the way.
Right. Definitely. I mean, there isn't any services out there really that are trustworthy enough for me anyway to even want to use it anymore. Really, I mean, in our reality, it's like you can't really get fiat currency from a cryptocurrency from anywhere trustworthy unless you're paying an outrageous fee. It's like they've made it so difficult now that it's almost not even worth using.
Yeah, I mean, like I've done the cryptocurrency investing. I still got a lot, some money in it, and I've dealt with the horrors of having, being on shitty exchanges and having your money jacked from you and disappearing and not being able to move from one to another. And it's great idea in theory, but
it doesn't really work.
No,
definitely not. If you want your spirits broken or all your hard work gone to shit or whatever, then definitely give it a shot. But I mean, if you don't want to lose money or whatever, hard work. I mean, I remember back in the day. I mean, Bitcoin. I used to actually do a lot of like pen testing, for other people. Like I don't want to give out too many details, but I would take that as a form of payment, and it was good. It worked real good, and but unfortunately, now it's like, I mean, it's like Tor. I can't even really trust Tor even, and they're basically
to Tor. Remember that Tor flaw the FBI had, and the FBI had it wouldn't give it to the GN. They wouldn't give it to the Tor. The organization that
Mozilla.
Yeah, they wouldn't give it to them, and so the Tor project had to figure out how the FBI was able to fucking grab IPs.
Yeah, it was actually a Firefox exploit back then.
Really?
0 day.
Is Commander X in here?
Yeah, Commander X just joined in.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Not too bad. Hey, I hear you got a guest on the air that hates my guts, though.
Who? Which one?
Who's that?
Point him out.
That's okay. I guess I'm used to being hated, so it comes with the job description.
I've never met you, so.
Well, I love you, Preston. Come on, I love you. You haven't met me. I've been on the air. I consider us good friends, Preston.
That's high.
Oh no, he's like a
Preston's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Preston. Oh, he sounds an awful lot like him though.
That's
My
Hive. He's
bad.
using
I'm
the
sorry.
modulator.
I
I
know we
just wanted
got.
to.
Sorry, we got
I wanted to
some.
mention.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. If I'm sounding poorly, let me know. I just wanted to say real quick, comment that on the Pirate Bay founders went to prison for several years, and it was quite a long, drawn out court case. There were tons of protests. Actually, a bunch of things came out of that, including the so-called "Copy Me" religion, and the Pirate Bay was actually sort of founded out of the whole sort of protest movement to keep those Pirate Bay founders out of prison. And if any of your listeners would be interested in really watching a fantastic documentary and learning just all of the gritty details, including there's actually scenes in the documentary where you can see the Pirate Bay founders literally shoving the servers for Pirate Bay into the back of a Saab and racing them across town to a hiding place right just ahead of police raids and stuff like that. It's quite exciting what they did to. Yeah, it's quite exciting what they had to do to keep the Pirate Bay on the air, online during the beginning years. And it's a great movie. Anyway, it's called TPB colon AFK. And that stands for, obviously, the Pirate Bay away from keyboard. But
Yeah,
it's
it's a good one.
TPB colon AFK. It should be available on most places like YouTube and Vimeo and everything. And I learned a lot, and I know a great deal about the Pirate Bay, but I learned a lot from watching that movie, including the human aspect of what it takes to really be courageous enough to try to keep a site like that online. And they paid a heavy price. The original founders paid a very heavy price to 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 give that service to the world. And I just think it'd be valuable for your listeners to maybe take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely some Bonnie and Clyde shit there. I mean,
Oh, it's
yes.
crazy. It's a great documentary, and then it goes deep into the court case, how ridiculous the court cases were, how solid the Pirate Bay argument was, and yet they still lost because they were up against these massive team of lawyers that were put forward by the movie industry in the United States, who spent just literally millions and millions of dollars to convict these cats. A couple of them actually fled to Thailand, and the documentary crew went with them to Thailand as they fled and hung out. And you can hear, how they're sort of like the Pirate Bay people are kind of like, yeah, we're never going home, fuck you, you know what I mean? But they did eventually. One of them got caught in Thailand, and another couple of them decided to go turn themselves in and do their time. And I believe they're all out now. One of them is very cynical. One of the main founders, who was kind of the spokesman, has become very cynical about information activism in general, because of his conviction and because of the way things have gone in the world, sort of against information activism. He's I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and that's sad, but he speaks out quite regularly now. If you watch the movie, he's the spokesperson guy. He's kind of the plain Jane. He's like the non-tech guy out of the three that went to prison. Um,
Can you post that in the chat so I can?
I'm not. I'm kind of afraid to touch anything, to be honest with you. I haven't done this very often, and I'm not sure if I dare to. I don't really know how to do Hangouts, but the name of the movie is TPB, obviously the Pirate Bay, colon AFK.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
It's on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can just find it on YouTube. It's very.
It's very easy to find. Yeah, it's very easy to find. It's not like a heavily copyrighted movie or anything. It's they open sourced it and gave it to the world. So there's copies of it everywhere, and it's a really great document. It's very gritty. I mean, these guys gave unlimited access, and even to stuff like they showed the infighting amongst the three founders. They showed how they didn't necessarily they weren't the best of friends. The one thing that they had in common was a belief in what they were doing, but they didn't get along that great, and you get to see that aspect of it too. So it was very gritty, very realistic documentary that pretty much went from the founding of the Pirate Bay through to the trials and the convictions.
And with the spokesperson, you mean Peter Sander, because Anakata is a
Yes,
hacker and another guy
Peter
too.
Saunders. Thank you. And he's a wonderful guy. He in the movie, he gets a lot of shit gets thrown at him by the other two founders in the movie, but I liked him. I liked his personality as it came across in the movie. He's my favorite by far of the three founders. And but kind of disappointing, I guess, though understandable that when he finally got out, he became very cynical, and he speaks out now about sort of almost the hopelessness of the whole, really the whole thing. I mean, the whole information activist front, because they're, you mentioned, you were talking about Julian earlier and how they've shut him down, how they destroyed Anonymous in the West, with Sabu and the FBI stings and everything, and just across the board, information activism has really been taking some pretty serious hits in the West, and he's become very, very cynical about that and outspoken about that cynicism. But as you point out, the Pirate Bay still exists, and whoever it is they handed it off to, and nobody knows who the founders gave it to continue, which is a
Maybe they
good
got
thing,
with
I
Julian
think,
Assange
probably.
to get some advice on that.
Well, there's this wonderful scene in the movie. Actually, there's a sort of a cross section between Assange and the Pirate Bay, because they're describing how they had the same host for a while as WikiLeaks, and there's this wonderful story that the former spokesperson for WikiLeaks is meeting with the Pirate Bay founders, and he's telling them how when he went to pay his hosting fee for WikiLeaks, of course they wouldn't take a check or credit card or anything like that, so they had to meet in a hotel uh, with a big bag of cash to pay
Yeah.
for the WikiLeaks hosting, and the CEO or the owner or whatever of this hosting company in Sweden, he wouldn't even come in the hotel. He made them. He would only come into the lobby, and he wouldn't keep his car out of sight. He kept looking at his car, and he was very, very nervous. And they're like, well, let's go upstairs. Let's hang out. Let's have a drink. And he's like, no, no, no. And he just kept looking at his car, and then he just grabs the sack of cash and runs. And so people, even hosts that are, they claim they're like bulletproof hosting and all this sort of thing. They're scared of these kind of websites. I mean, they're scared to deal with, these high profile sites like the Pirate Bay and WikiLeaks. But it's a great movie. I think any listener that will go ahead and watch that movie will be very enlightened about the Pirate Bay and what people went through to bring that service to the world, and also the sort of human side of information activism, which is, I think, something that people miss, is that figures like Julian and the founders of the Pirate Bay, and I guess to a lesser extent myself, the people who become very high profile, they become sort of mythologized, and people don't realize that all of us, we're human beings, and we suffer greatly. Our families get broken up by this kind of shit. People hate us. Our friends hate us. There's a lot of pain, a lot of personal pain in being committed
What what
to.
what what is your opinion on the connection with Julian and the Rothschilds? Out of
I
curiosity.
don't. I'm going to state my qualification first to answer the question. I'm really good friends with Julian. Up until he was cut off from the internet, we were communicating on at least a biweekly basis, to work on different projects. I've known him for years. In fact, I originally met him back in the '80s when he was Mendax. I met him on a German, what we called back in the old days, bulletin boards. That's sort of pre-internet, pre-IRC. These places where you dialed into and hackers could gather. So I've known Julian for a very long time. I know his mom. I'm very close with her as well. There's no basis in fact to any of these conspiracy theories. I promise you that Julian is just what he appears to be. He's a hacker. He began as a hacker, as Mendax, probably one of the greatest hackers in the world at the time. He discovered very early the power of information disclosure. He registered leaks.org in 1999, preparing sort of a prototype of WikiLeaks. And he just simply passionately believes in free information, in the ability of information to flow freely, and for people to understand and to know the details of what their governments are doing in their name. What happened during the 2016 election was straightforward. A bunch of really interesting data on the Democrats and Hillary was dumped on them. I was actually aware of that leak beforehand, as a person who works closely with WikiLeaks. A number of us were aware ahead of time that leak was going to come out, and it's just a straightforward thing. Now, I'm not going to speak to the provenance of that leak. I think there's a lot of theories. I have my own. I've written a blog piece about my own investigation as to where that leak came from, and I believe it was not what we're being told. It was not the Russians. That's my own opinion, and it's pretty well documented in my blog piece. My opinion, but I can tell you that Julian is an honest person. Any smear to the contrary is 100% false, and he's terrified. He's in that embassy right now, and he's terrified. He's losing weight to the extent that I think he may even be on some sort of a hunger strike at this point. The last photograph I saw of him that was leaked, he weighed maybe 90 pounds, and soaking wet, and he looked very, very sick, to be honest with you. I think he's not doing very well under this pressure, and I think that it's a horrible cruelty to do to any human being. But in my opinion, Julian's not any human being. He's an extraordinary human being. First of all, he's one of the few human beings whose brilliance I respect as being significantly greater than my own, and that's saying a lot because I'm pretty egotistical about my intellect. But he's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant man, and he's an honest man. He's really trying to help the world with this idea of disclosure, and I think that if they, I also want to point out some news. The Ecuador president is visiting the UK this week, and there are significant sources in the media who are saying that there's going to be a deal made. They're going to drag him out of there, and they're going to arrest him.
That's what I
And
heard
I can
too.
promise you, yes, and I can promise you this on behalf of all the world's hackers. You know, Julian he may be controversial in the West. He may be controversial amongst members of Anonymous, but there is no controversy amongst the cyberpunk underground about Julian Assange. And if Anonymous thinks it's powerful, they have no idea about how powerful the black hat hackers are in the cyberpunk underground. The world will burn if they drag Julian out of there, and it won't even have to be about Anonymous.
Oh, like the
There are plenty of hackers.
like the DYN attack. That was pretty
Oh,
big.
yeah.
That was pretty big, bro.
Yes, yes, it was really big, and I think the Ecuador cyberspace, and I'll be honest, and I don't even give a fuck if the FBI is listening or not. I'll be one of them leading the charge. I'll be one of the hackers leading the charge. Fuck that shit. I will do whatever I fucking can to avenge him if he's dragged out of that embassy, and I'll begin with Ecuador. I'll turn them into a smoking crater in cyberspace, and I'll just work my way up from there. The UK next, and then after that, the USA. But I think that we need to. Hopefully, we can work towards that not happening by putting pressure on Ecuador. And one of the good things that came out this week is, and it's actually applicable to my own case, my own asylum case here in Mexico. The Inter-American Court on Human Rights, to which all of the South American countries, the Latin American countries, are bound. They're legally bound to this court by the OAS treaties. Basically, the court ruling, I've read it, I got a PDF copy of it, basically restates what is already law down here, which is what's known as the OAS Asylum Treaty. But it basically restates what's already law, and that is that down here in Latin America, diplomatic asylum, which is the idea of getting asylum by going into an embassy, is the equivalent of political or what's known as just normal regular asylum. And that if a person is granted diplomatic asylum within an embassy, they also absolutely have the right to be transported out of that embassy to the country, to the actual soil of the country that granted them asylum. And that's a really foundational law down here. And not only is that written into the OAS treaty, But in Mexico, which is why I chose Mexico to seek asylum in, Mexico, those laws from the OAS treaty were actually rewritten directly into the Mexican Constitution and then formalized in what's known as the Comar Refugee Act. So these laws are very strong and down here in Latin America. And Ecuador has really been put on the spot that they will be violating a major treaty down here in Latin America if they turn Julian over. So it was somewhat of good news. It definitely puts Ecuador on notice that they absolutely have no legal right whatsoever. I want to point out that Julian is an Australian citizen. He was granted Ecuadorian citizen, which he earned while he was in the embassy. He learned the language. He went through the normal, what do you call, immigration or naturalization process, I guess is what you call it, within the embassy. He spent years learning Spanish and took all the tests and everything. And he is a legal Ecuadorian citizen. And he is also an Ecuadorian diplomat. They granted him diplomatic status in an attempt to try to convince the UK to let him leave under that status. And of course, it didn't fly. The UK is being very intransigent about the issues. So my opinion of Julian is the highest that you can get. And like I said, I'm not speaking from somebody who's from the outside looking in. I feel like, I know Julian really well, and I know his mom, and this is a good man. His mom is a wonderful, wonderful lady. She's just the most fantastic woman on earth. You can follow her on Twitter. Her handle is Mrs. Assange. That's at Mrs. Assange. I encourage people to follow her. His mom stays up all hours of the day and night, tweeting her heart out.
Yeah, she became like super active in this fight now.
Yes, she has. And I just, I don't mean to diss anybody, including, I forget the guest who I thought was Preston's name. I didn't catch it. But I just want to say that I'm not dissing anything you've heard or believe, but I want to tell you straight away, you'll never convince me of any of those smear campaigns or conspiracy theories. It's all very, very straight up. Those leaks came.
Well, that was one of the reasons I brought it up. Is just you never learn anything unless you ask questions. So that's the only reason I asked.
That's
I want to
one of the points
apologize
that
in
I was actually
advance.
making.
I have a cold, guys, so I'll just apologize in advance for nose blowing and coughing, and I have a horrible cold. Can you believe I caught a cold and I live in the equatorial tropics and it's high summer, and I've got a fucking cold. So go fucking
sinuses,
figure, right?
man.
I moved from
Get some
Toronto,
vinegar.
Canada, where I didn't get a cold in 10 years. Okay, I lived in Toronto, Canada, as some of you might know, in exile in Toronto, Canada, for 10 years. Never caught a friggin' cold. I moved to the equatorial tropics and I caught a cold. But there you go. That's the irony of life, right?
It
Anyway,
follows
I'm
you.
glad to be on. Thank you for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I love coming on with you guys. I love each and every one of you. I mean, it's just the most fantastic show that's done in anonymous radio. I keep saying that on the Twitter, and it's absolute truth. This is the best show going, man.
Hey, but these were kind of your subjects, so yeah, you need to be on in this episode. I mean, yeah.
Where were you when we had the WikiLeaks episode?
I was invited, but we had an issue. As I said, I'm in exile down here in Mexico, as is my sister. I brought her into exile as well because of, as the other guys in the show know, she's been tortured for 10 years by the FBI in America for simply being my sister and no other reason. So we also brought her here for asylum, and we've had a very difficult time down here. We've gone through a number of safe houses, and for various security reasons, we've had to keep moving. And unfortunately, when Mark got up with me to do that episode, we were right in the middle of yet another emergency move to a new safe house. We're hoping today. We just had another meeting with the people who sort of own our current compound that we have obtained here, and we think we finally found a really good, stable place. We're in a completely different city now, where the security issues seem to be a little bit better. We have some concerning things going on all the time. We're always aware of our security, and there's always issues and things that we got our eye on. But we feel a lot better now about the compound that we're in now. So hopefully we can stabilize and We have a great pipe. We have a fantastic internet connection here, so we should be able to. I should be able to come on more often if you guys want, but I don't want to piss your guests off who hate my guts either. So.
They've been quiet, actually.
Yeah, I haven't heard him in a minute, but I did hear him say when you mentioned me coming on, he's like, "Oh, if he comes on, I'm out." So, and,
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry if
he's
people hate
muted
me.
now or something. But yeah.
Well, don't do that. I don't want to be responsible for censoring anybody. Censorship sucks all the way around. So.
Yeah, I know it's probably because of the pro WikiLeaks thing, and yeah, as you know, there are some people who are like doubting the legitimacy of WikiLeaks, and
And I
I like to ask questions. I mean, I can't stress
I do
that
get
enough. I
why.
like to ask.
I do get
Well,
why
I
because
do know.
yeah.
I can tell you I know a lot about it, so please feel free to ask. I'll give what I know, and then I'll also give my opinion. And I want to make clear, I'm not some sort of militant radical here trying to say, if you've got questions or if you've got doubts, then, you're a horrible person and whatever. I understand how people could have doubts. These are very confusing times, and
Really.
there's a huge amount of misinformation out there that's flooding social media and flooding the media in general. I get that. So I'm not here to say, oh my God, how could you ever say that about Julian? All I can do is answer from what I know and from decades of experience in this, and from at least 10 years of being involved with WikiLeaks, um, to answer them honestly. Um, I can just only say what I say. I'm not out to denigrate anybody who believes anything. Who I am out to denigrate are the people who I believe are maliciously starting this information and putting it out there to try to attack Julian. That I denigrate. But legitimate people, normal people like all of us on the air tonight, I don't have any problems with people having questions about it. I think people should question their world. People should question these things.
Right.
But I also encourage people to follow my feed, follow Mrs. Assange's feed, follow Susie Dawson. She is absolutely incredible. I believe that's her handle on Twitter, just her name, Susie, or oh no, Susie D.
Is
That's
that the
right,
one? Is that
Susie
the one
D.
with the anime character? That's like, isn't she? Is that the one? Her? No.
She is the one who is organizing, along with Elizabeth Voss. She is organizing the monthly Unity for J
Yeah,
vigil,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
which is the longest motherfucking radio show you ever want to be on. I was involved in the first one, and honest to God, I don't know how her and Elizabeth did it. They were on the air for almost 48 hours fucking straight, tag teaming. And because we were offering technical support, what we did with my own radio station, Anonymous Global Internet Radio, we turned over our audio servers to her so that people who in other countries or on mobile who weren't able to get the video feed could then tune into the audio feeds, and it was obviously lower bandwidth and whatnot. So they were very grateful for that, and we'll be participating in the August one. We couldn't do the July one again for the same reason. I couldn't be on the show that time, that WikiLeaks show, because we were in between safe houses. But definitely this August vigil, you can expect my involvement. I think I was invited by Susie to be a guest host, which means I'll come in and take some time from them because, like I said, it's a really long marathon thing, and I'll take a chunk of time so Susie and Elizabeth can go rest and get something to eat, and I'll bring my own guests on. Um, I've got some amazing guests I want to bring on that vigil as well. But some amazing people appeared on the vigil, including Kim Dotcom, who appears on every one. He comes on every vigil
Yeah.
and does an interview, and a number of other people that are very, very famous, some comedians and some actors and some journalists. And she's been able to garner a great deal of support from some really top shelf guests to come on. But and it was so well organized. I'm really so proud of Susie and Elizabeth for what they did, because it went really, really smoothly. There were very few technical problems. There was a cyber attack that took place during the one that I was involved in, not this last one, but the one before. But they mitigated it well, and they do a really good job with it. And I recommend everybody to Look up I believe the Twitter is at Unity4J, and then the hashtag is also at Unity4J
Mhm.
as well. And it's a fantastic chance to learn a lot about what's going on, and also to hear a lot of people speak on behalf of Julian. So
Okay,
Did
but
you ever
that is
see?
all. Go ahead, Hive. Sorry.
I was going to ask if there was a documentary that come out because I was pretty much backing Assange for it was around October when around when the elections were going on and there was that whole thing of he's missing, oh he's dead, oh he's this, and then it went from that into I don't know. Then I seen a documentary, WikiLeaks Secrets and Lies. Did you ever see that?
I haven't watched that one. No, there's a number of them out there. A couple I can recommend. I'll let you finish though.
But I don't know that documentary went into I guess when he was releasing some of the leaks that he released, and it was there was a discussion that he wanted to release the full leak, names, everything, which in turn would have endangered people's lives. And he wanted to release them, but everybody else was saying no, you need to censor this, and that right there kind of made me go, what? Why would you want to endanger anybody's life? So
Well,
that kind of made me wonder.
the one I can cover that answer and also recommend. It's a rather old documentary, but I personally, it's of all the documentaries, I like it the best. I think it's the closest to being accurate. And it's called Wiki Rebels, and again available very open source on like YouTube and whatnot. But it's called Wiki Rebels, and in that one he actually addresses the issue. In one case, it was the Afghan war files that he was about to dump, and the Afghan war files were an absolutely critical leak because it's the first time that we have ever had the Afghan war files. First of all, are every single communication, every single field report, every single document period generated by the US military during the Afghan war, uncensored, unredacted. This is, first of all, an absolutely historic disclosure in the sense that this is a chance to see war, to see a war in a way that we have never been allowed to see it. We always see war through the mouthpiece of the Pentagon, through the filter of the Pentagon, through the filter of the United States government, and that has always been the case. There is no war, okay, no war where you can get the level of documentation that was released in the Afghan war files. So people will be studying, and also the Iraq war files, which came out shortly after. Those two dumps, those two huge dumps, will be studied for decades because it is an absolutely unprecedented detailed record of war. And the one thing it shows is war is fucking horrible. Okay, war is just absolutely. Um, I mean, you have just families killed because they were driving too fast towards a checkpoint. And this is written by the soldiers on the ground in real time. These are the reports that they're filing, literally from the ground. Um, as to your question about redaction, the Iraq war files and the Afghan war files were so huge. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of documents, attached video files, you name it. It's just a huge, huge, huge volume of material. And there is no organization on earth that had the ability to redact those the way that the critics thought they should be redacted. So Julian was left with a conundrum, and this is what he says. He says this right in the documentary. It was either dump those files unredacted or publish none of them. And what Julian felt was that the impact, especially of the Afghan and Iraq war files, the impact of those dumps on the progress of those wars, because many people in journalists and pundits have credited the Iraq war files, especially with ending the Iraq War, because that the Iraqi government, when they saw that dump on WikiLeaks, basically said, that's it, it's done. U.S. troops got to get out. They got to go, because it documented 150,000 civilian deaths. Some of them very wanton, just basically wanton killings of, like, the AP reporters during the Collateral Murder video and stuff like that. So Julian's basic philosophy was the impact of those dumps on the progress of those wars superseded the danger of the collateral damage that they may or may not, and nobody's ever proven that they actually caused any collateral damage. Nobody can point to even a single Iraqi or Afghanistan soldier or American soldier who was harmed or killed because of those dumps. But Julian's point was that the impact on those wars going forward, as well as the impact of future wars, by the ability to study these diaries, perhaps it will have an impact the next time America wants to march into one of these wars. And that overall impact, not only that, but the impact on the historical record, the ability for the to have such a detailed, unfiltered, unredacted record of a war superseded that danger, and that was his decision. So, and that was his decision making his thought process on that. Um,
Yeah, I think the Guardian is the one who released that documentary.
It could be because the Guardian turned on Julian for various inter-business reasons. The Guardian used to work very closely with WikiLeaks. They had a falling out because they were granted access, secret access, to preview material by Julian, and they double-crossed him on that and released material that they were not authorized yet to release by Julian. And then a sort of infighting began between WikiLeaks and the Guardian, and now the Guardian sort of has a grudge to bear against WikiLeaks. So the Guardian, in my mind, is not to be really trusted at this point. But the movie Wiki Rebels is a good one. If somebody wants to know Julian's early life leading up to his conviction for breaking into NASA and the U.S. military as a teenager, that was his first hacking conviction in Australia. And you see his childhood leading all the way up to that conviction for the NASA hack and the military hacks in the 80s and 90s. I recommend it. It's a dramatic picture. It's not a documentary, so it's an actual dramatic film, but it's called Underground. That one is fairly available on YouTube. It is copyrighted, but I think enough people have put up pirate copies of it. You can certainly get it on the Pirate Bay, but I think it might also be a few copies of it laying around on YouTube. But it's called Underground, the Julian Assange story. And I like to point out that the actress that plays Christine Assange got it, spiked it, man. I mean, she could be Christine Assange. It was just amazing. It was a really, really good one. It was produced in Australia. It's a dramatic film. So I recommend, if people want to learn about how sort of Julian ended up, becoming sort of, took that direction. I mean, you get to see how he hacked as a teenager. He hacked the U.S. military and leaked secrets that they were planning a buildup to invade Iraq long before anybody was even discussing it in mainstream media, the possibility that they would invade Iraq. And this is the first Iraq invasion. I'm not talking about the second one, but the first Iraq war. He was able to release material that he hacked as a teenager that showed that this war was coming long before people even knew that. So again, sort of showing that even as a teenager, he was aware of the power of information disclosure, and that sort of became like a central theme, not only of his career, but it really affected hacktivism in general. Because back then, hacktivism was more offensive. It was more, breaking into NASA and shutting down their computers so they couldn't launch a plutonium-laced satellite into space, or that. So it was more like protest. And Julian sort of took it to a whole different sort of dynamic, a whole different paradigm, with this idea of, let's not just hack to disrupt, let's hack to steal their information and dump that information. And so you get to see a sort of a timeline where that begins very early on when Julian is really still just a kid, and he's already sort of focusing in that direction. And he really did change the face of hacktivism in that sense that, all of these email dumps that we get now and stuff like that are all sort of a byproduct of of that idea that information activism can encompass the idea of disclosure, of stealing their secrets and dumping them.
Well, you definitely touched on a lot of topics that or a lot of, I guess, questions that kind of arose through the whole WikiLeaks sort of deal. I guess my thing is just always question everything. That's definitely what we do as activists, stuff like that. And I appreciate you kind of shedding some light. My thing was only basically how is he still able to operate under the pretense that the higher elite could definitely touch him anywhere, doesn't matter where he is. I guess just to kind of shed light on what I was saying earlier, but if you didn't have a chance to hear it, but I do appreciate everything that you've done and what have you. So
Well, I wanted to make a quick legal point too. You were talking about the diplomatic, the diplomatic limousines and stuff like that. If Julian had gone into a bigger country, like a more rich country, he would probably already be out of the UK. One of the things that, and this sounds kind of funny, but Tyler hit on it, is that a diplomatic aircraft or a diplomatic limousine is also a flagged piece of that country. So let's say that Julian had gone into, say, the French embassy in the UK, which is a very large compound. Um, if the French government decided to defy the UK, they could simply, within the compound itself, they could place him in a diplomatic limousine, probably even with the ambassador himself also in that embassy, in that limo, just as a little bit of added padding. But they could place him in the limo, the flagged limo, within the compound. Okay, they could drive to an airfield with a diplomatic flagged airplane, like probably like a Learjet, say, or something. And in order to, in the strictest sense, it sounds kind of weird, but in the strictest sense, to obey the law, they would actually have to pull up close enough to the airplane where Julian would have to leap from the limousine onto the steps of the airplane in order to keep within the absolute letter of the law, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't touch UK soil, okay? So he leaps from the steps to the airplane, jumps in the airplane, and even if the tower refused to let them take off, the plane can still just take off. That's been done on many occasions where diplomatic airplanes have been refused permission to launch, and they just launch anyway. There's nothing. They're not going to shoot them down. So that sort of thing would be possible, and again, that would take the will of the country that he sought asylum in to do that. They would have to be defying the UK and do that, but they would have that legal ability to do that. There would be a mechanism. The problem with Ecuador is it's such a poor and small country that they are only one floor in that building. They are, I don't want to call it an apartment, but it's a multi-floor building, and the embassy is only the second and third floor. The bottom floor is just the lobby and whatever, and then there's the sidewalk. It's not a compound. So in order to get into a diplomatic limousine, he would have to exit the doors of the embassy through the lobby, where they had, up until recently, they had UK police in the lobby just for that reason. They've got it closely monitored anyway. They have snatch teams all the way around the embassy. They have plainclothes policemen in sedans. Julian has even filmed several of them and leaked the films where they have plainclothes policemen, what they call snatch teams, around the embassy just in case this happens. But
that explains the photos that were released around October, around elections, when he was releasing the Democratic leaks. They had
Right.
those snatched in. They got them pictures of them. Yeah.
Yes, they do. And I believe, I can't prove it, but I believe those were taken by Julian. He's got a great deal of time on his hands. He has a perfect vantage point, and he has a perfect motive. I mean, I don't know. Julian never claimed that he took those pictures, but I believe I believe that he did, and I would do the same fucking thing if I were him. I'd be monitoring the fuck out of everything around me and saving it for just such an occasion to leak that shit. An interesting thing, and I don't know, I don't want to speak to this. This is third hand, but 2 episodes ago on my own radio show, I interviewed a guest by the name of Tefpo. Tefpo is an interesting character. He's a dear friend of mine, but he's also a world-renowned rapper from St. Louis who was a founding member of the Ferguson Uprising and the Black Lives Matter movement. I worked very, very closely with him during Operation Ferguson, which was an anonymous operation to support that. And I had him on my show just a few weeks ago, and he had an interesting story to tell. He, during the height of the Ferguson Uprising, visited Julian in the embassy, if you can imagine. And it's kind of funny to imagine this black rapper who admittedly knew very, very little about hacktivism or information activism, sitting down with Julian Assange in the embassy. But he claims that Julian told him that it wasn't just the snatch teams. He claimed they have snipers ready to take him out should he exit the embassy. And that's Julian's own words to this man, who I have no reason to disbelieve. He's a wonderful character. Just a very. I mean, he's a 2-time Harvard fellow. He's a professor.
What's with Pamela Anderson? I'm just curious.
That's been showing up a lot lately. I was like, wondering, I was like, man, he is one lucky dude, bro.
Pamela Anderson. Yeah. I think Pamela has been pretty honest about it in the interviews that she's given about it. She's like, look, of course it's a difficult relationship. It's a strange relationship. I think Pamela has shown an incredible amount of compassion because basically she said, look, he's a wonderful man. He's obviously good looking and he's trapped in that embassy. Everybody is entitled to companionship. Everybody is entitled to have somebody. And so I think that's just a wonderful answer to why she would do that, and I don't know. I have a great deal of respect for Pamela Anderson. I think I'm so sorry about the coughing, guys. Like I said, I'm terribly sick.
Happens to everybody, I'm sure.
No, I
Everybody
like her
is
answer.
sick.
I think she genuinely cares about Julian and cares for him. I think it's a difficult relationship, and I think that her explanation that everybody deserves companionship. 10 years. Come on, guys. Are we not all guys on this show? I mean, come on, 10 years without touch a woman. I mean, fuck, man. That
I'm going 24 years without it, and I'm doing just fine.
Oh well, okay.
I'm sure those videos can't go 24 minutes.
I can't even go 24 minutes. Exactly. You know what I mean? I bet you fap a lot, though, dude.
Autism. You try sometimes.
I just saying, some people just can't go 24.
I'm doing perfectly fine.
So, Commander X, what are your thoughts about what's gonna? I see this. Me personally, I see this all happening in the next couple of weeks. But them trying to hand him over. What do you think is gonna happen?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think it's really a knife edge. We're on a knife edge here. I think that a lot of it is going to depend on the online support and the online protests leading up to this meeting between the Ecuador president and the UK Prime Minister. I think we need to have a lot of boots on the ground around the embassy. We need to have protests. Just pretty much nationwide. I think there should be protests in front of every single Ecuadorian embassy in the fucking world. People should be standing there with signs and putting pressure. I think online protests need to be stepped up. Things like Susie Dawson's vigil, that's awesome, that's great, but that's not going to come until the end of the month. I think that we need to have some online pressure. I'll be honest with you, and I've said this on my own radio show, and this is probably a little provocative, but I think we need to start firing some fucking lasers at some Ecuador websites. To be honest with you, I think we need to do what Anonymous does, man, and fuck some shit up in Ecuador and let them know that they're going to pay a price. They're going to pay an economic price, and they're going to pay a price in damage to their.
So you're saying let's shoot beams at them?
I think we should do whatever we can. Yeah, yeah. Basically, I
Yeah,
think we
so
should do
One
whatever we
question.
can.
packet overload.
Pop Ecuador.
Yeah,
Oh
I mean,
my.
Question that
I
I've
think
had.
I,
I
I
mean,
think whatever it takes. I think whatever it takes. I think we should put the pressure on. This coming meeting, which is coming up very soon. It's a matter of days now. I think before the meeting takes place. I think we need to let them know, let the Ecuadorian president know that this is unacceptable. One of the things that I like to tell that a lot of people are not aware of, and maybe every one of you will go sort of for a second on this show. But how did Julian even end up in the Ecuador embassy? Why did he pick Ecuador? How did that even come about? And I actually did an episode, an ad hoc episode the other day on my radio station explaining that. And I'll do it again soon, probably real soon. I'll replay this episode and this piece that happened. But I want people to understand that Julian didn't just pick Ecuador at random. He did not inflict himself on Ecuador, okay? He was invited specifically on his own television show, on Julian's own show that he was broadcasting for a time on RT, on Russian television. He had a series that he was the host of. And he invited the president, the then sitting president, President Correa of Ecuador, onto his show. And unbeknownst to Julian, a total surprise to him, in the middle of the show, Correa invited him to come to Ecuador and receive asylum. And so, shortly after that show, and this is when,
Break it
as
up.
Tyler was saying, this is when he was under house arrest in the UK. He was still free to operate and everything, but he had an ankle bracelet on, and he was being housed by a rich publisher in the UK who gave him a guest house on his estate to live in, and he was doing this television show. So he has President Correa on, and just out of nowhere, President Correa invited to protect him and invited him to Ecuador and said that Ecuador would absolutely grant him asylum and protect him. So fast forward, I don't know exactly how much time, but maybe weeks or months or whatever. And in the middle of the night, Julian and his staff discover that the jig is up. The UK police are on their way, literally on their way to come arrest him, take him into custody, send him back to Sweden, where he most certainly would have been extradited from there to the U.S. So, in the middle of the night, Julian disguised himself actually as a woman. He actually dressed as a woman and disguised himself, and his team transported him in the middle of the night to the Ecuador embassy, and he went into the embassy. Word got out almost immediately, and there's this wonderful video. There's this wonderful video floating around that you can see where the UK police show up at the front door of the embassy. Like, what the fuck? Can we have Julian? And instead, the charge d'affaires of the embassy hands them a manila envelope with Julian's ankle bracelet inside of it. And they knew then that they're not getting him back. That is how he comes to be in the embassy. It is important to understand that the head of state of Ecuador personally invited him and promised him protection and asylum, and then subsequently followed through on that by granting him full asylum and full protection within an embassy, and swore that the Ecuadorian government would protect him, for good. Now, I understand that we have a new president in there, and a much more conservative president, a president who's much more friendly to the U.S. But all of us understand that a promise of a government supersedes different administrations. That's sort of the protocol, the tradition of nation states is that a nation sticks by its promises. This is why one president can't just go in and sort of massively undo the treaties and the promises that were made by the previous president, because a promise made is a promise made. So, Ecuador has a lot to answer for in the way that they are treating Julian, and they'll certainly have a lot to answer for if they hand him over, because he didn't just go in there randomly. He didn't go in there of his own accord. He was invited by the head of state of that country to enter that embassy. And so that's how Julian comes to be in the embassy. And I think it's important for people to get the whole picture to understand that.
Hey guys, we only have about 4 minutes till they cut us off.
Oh,
Sorry.
One quick question though that I do have is just simply, I mean, in a place that small, what does the security look like? On the outside for Julian. I guess
Say it, please, one more time. Repeat the question for me.
I mean, for Julian, what kind of security does he have to kind of protect him from maybe somebody who's not really law abiding to go in there and if they wanted to hire somebody to take him out? I mean, what's the possibility of that?
The embassy security was beefed up during the initial asylum for that purpose. It was actually rather expensive for Ecuador to do that, but the embassy is now. The embassy, because it was so small, used to just be closed at night. They used to just lock the doors and everybody went home. But once Julian entered the embassy, they beefed up the security considerably just for that purpose. And now there's an added layer of security. Not only is there the layer of security in the embassy to protect it from intruders from the outside, but Julian is now essentially under house arrest. So there's a separate team of security within the embassy to Julian used to, for instance, Julian used to be able to walk around the embassy at night. When it was closed, he could, spread his legs a little bit, get out of his room, walk around, maybe crack the door to the balcony open, get a little bit of fresh air. He's not allowed to do that anymore. So there's actually two layers of security now. One sort of focused on Julian and controlling his movements within the embassy, and still that added layer of security to prevent people from coming from the outside. And it's been very effective. At one point, a person dressed like a ninja actually tried to scale the walls of the embassy. Julian tweeted about it in real time, and the Ecuadorian security in the embassy was very, very quick to handle the situation. So there's considerable security for such a very small compound, such a small embassy. So it's pretty much been handled.
So he's probably really, really, literally losing his mind.
I saw a
Well,
video that
yeah.
was leaked by his attorney, and I'm telling you, I cried. This is my friend. This is a person who I consider a personal friend, and he had to have weighed like 90 pounds. And my concern is he may well be on a hunger strike at this point, because I mean, he is, as Julian's always been a thin guy, but this was bad. He was skeletal. I mean, he was anorexically thin. With the video that I saw, it was a very brief video that was, I believe, shot by one of his attorneys on a mobile phone and then smuggled out of the embassy. He looked very, very sickly. He looked extremely depressed. He looked worse than I have ever seen anybody look in my life. I think that this is killing him. Quite literally, it's killing him. And the medical attention is very, very poor.
he's in solitary
He's not
confinement.
really allowed.
Guys, 1 minute till
Really,
they 1
that's
minute
what
till
it's
the stream
like,
cuts out.
and that's a violation of UN rights. That's a violation of his rights. One of many violations of his rights under UN law. So.
Well, I appreciate you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, I appreciate you having for me too.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I
good
guess
show
I'm a
tonight, guys.
controversial figure, so. I guess
Yeah,
I'm a
good chat,
controversial
guys.
figure, so.
Who isn't?
Me.
Well, to the guest that I pissed off, I'm really, really sorry you don't like me. I understand, because lots of people don't like me, but I never meant to like get you muted or censored or anything like that. So hopefully we could just all get along, because I love this show, and me and Mark have Talkback Channel. I'd like to come on more often, but not as a guest, more